Chapter 290. Author's Note, 33. For chapters completed. Looking for guaranteed monthly votes in April. Run. Keep running. And you can't run anymore. In terms of strength, this young master can crush you in a matter of minutes. In terms of speed, this young master can still crush you in a matter of minutes. You are just an ant and you dare to show off in front of this young master. You're courting death. Mr. Watanabe stopped behind Yixing. He didn't rush to attack. Instead, he laughed with a mocking smile. Happy. Mr. Watanabe was very happy. Although he had belittled Yixing and called him an ant, he still valued Yixing in his heart. He knew that Yixing could defeat opponents 2 realms higher than him. In terms of challenging opponents with higher realms, Yixing was comparable to the Yin-Yang young master and was even stronger than him. But so what? Even though Yixing was stronger than him in terms of fighting those stronger than him, Yixing's cultivation was still a realm lower than his. In terms of strength, Watanabe could crush Yixing. Strength in the past was not important. Strength in the future was also not important. Only strength in the present was the most important and the most powerful. Even if he had great potential, even if he had incredible combat strength, even if he would become a powerful expert in the future, he would have nothing if he died now. Therefore, strength was the most important and the most powerful. No matter how incredible your combat strength was, no matter if you would become a powerful expert in the future, now that I'm stronger than you, I'll crush you and kill you. Mr. Watanabe didn't know about Yixing's destiny. He only knew that Yixing was a 6-star martial saint at a young age, and his strength was not inferior to an 8-star martial saint. He was a monstrous genius with incredible potential. But now, he was going to kill this monstrous genius with heaven-defying potential. He was going to kill Yixing like he was stepping on an ant. Watanabe was extremely excited. Yixing turned around. His face was calm and his breathing was even. He didn't look like he was out of breath at all. On the contrary, Yixing's condition was very good. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, carrying a trace of a smile. This smile was filled with disdain, mockery, and contempt. For some reason, Watanabe had a bad feeling when he saw Yixing's expression and Yixing's gaze. It was as if their identities had suddenly switched. He had become the prey, and Yixing had become the hunter. No. Young Master Watanabe shook his head and rejected this idea. I am young Master Watanabe, the top genius of the younger generation in the Qingyun region. This kid is only 17 years old and his hair is not even fully grown yet. His cultivation is only at the 6th level of the Star Vortex realm. He is definitely not my opponent. If he is stronger than me, why does he have to run so far away? That's right, he's running. He's running here and can't run anymore. This young master can't be deceived by his pretentious act. Thinking of this, young Master Watanabe completely eliminated the bad feeling in his heart. He stared at Yixing with disdain in his eyes and chuckled. And kneel down and beg me, kneel every 3 steps, kowtow every 9 steps and crawl over. If you make me happy, this young master might just cripple your cultivation and spare your dog life. Hurry up, kneel down before this young master. Yixing looked at young Master Watanabe indifferently. The smile on his face deepened, and he softly spat out 2 words, idiot. Young Master Watanabe's eyes were filled with coldness, and his voice became gloomy. It seems like you want to die. I'll fulfill your wish and let you slowly enjoy the process of death. Yixing chuckled and said, idiot, I deliberately led you here to take your life. You don't even know that you're about to die. What kind of child-level genius are you? I think you're more like an idiot. Young Master Watanabe's heart tightened for no reason. That bad feeling came again, and it was even stronger. This made young Master Watanabe very irritated. Although he looked calm on the surface, he almost believed this feeling in his heart. If he followed the feeling in his heart, he would leave this place immediately because Yixing gave him a very dangerous feeling. He couldn't afford to provoke him. However, on the other hand, young Master Watanabe kept eliminating these thoughts. He was the dignified young Master Watanabe, one of the 6 child-level geniuses. How could he be scared off by a kid who was a few years younger than him? Moreover, killing Yixing was his mission. If he ran away just because of this feeling in his heart, how could he explain it to his sect? Not to mention explaining it to his sect, he couldn't even get over this in his heart. If he was scared off by Yixing, wouldn't he, young Master Watanabe, be a child-level genius? Wouldn't he become a coward? Young Master Watanabe killed all the thoughts in his heart. His confidence grew stronger and stronger. He stared coldly at Yixing, and a smile appeared on his face again. Yixing, your acting skills are really good, much better than your strength. I have to say, you're so calm that I was almost fooled by you. However, do you think you can scare me, Master Watanabe, away with just your appearance? You'd better reincarnate and try again in your next life. The smile on young Master Watanabe's face turned into a ferocious grin. The middle-grade spiritual sword in his hand gradually shone brightly. His belief was no longer shaken. He was determined to kill Yixing. Yixing's expression was still calm. He said with a smile, "Whether you believe it or not, fight or run, you're doomed to die since you're here." As he spoke, a starlight shot up from between Yixing's eyebrows and turned into a huge black hole vortex in the sky. Young Master Watanabe felt the world turn dark in an instant. He couldn't even see his own fingers. Everything around him had turned into a world of darkness. Looking up at the huge black hole vortex that almost covered the entire dark world, Watanabe's heart skipped a beat as if it was pinched by a hand. Sir Watanabe was shocked. This is your astrology. How is it possible? How is it possible to have such an astrology? His Tua Luo celestial aspect was first-rate among the high-grade aspects. Not to mention a perfected one, even a supremacy would not be considered inferior. However, the moment Watanabe saw this black hole vortex, he intuitively felt that his Tua Luo star form was not on the same level as this black hole vortex. He had never heard of such an astrology before, so he was unable to determine the level of Yixing's astrology. All he could feel was the trembling of his soul and the shock of his heart. At this moment, Sir Watanabe was really shocked. His heart was filled with fear. He understood that the feeling in his heart before was not from Yixing's pretense, but a real premonition of danger. Retreat. Sir Watanabe pushed his speed to the limit and retreated backward rapidly. At this moment, he only wanted to follow the feeling in his heart and run away from Yixing as far as he could. Yixing's chuckle came. "You've entered my dark world. Can you still leave, you ant?" Ant. This form of address was particularly harsh in Watanabe's ears. However, he had no time to care about Yixing's address, because as soon as Yixing finished speaking, he had already attacked Sir Watanabe with his spear. Dark Spear Technique, Dark Spirit Spear. The dark spear light blended into the dark world and disappeared without a trace. However, Sir Watanabe still sensed Yixing's attack from the terrifying killing intent. Unfortunately, it was too late when he sensed it. He had no time to defend himself. "Do you really think you can kill me?" Young Master Watanabe shouted angrily. He threw out something, and in an instant, a light shield appeared and enveloped him. Boom! The dark spirit spear hit the formation light shield and made an earth-shattering explosion. Layers of ripples appeared on the formation light shield, but it did not break. Yixing's pupils shrank. It was a level 2 defense formation disc. The light shield of the formation separated the darkness of the black hole world, and everything within a radius of 100 feet around Mr. Watanabe became normal again. Sir Watanabe sneered, "Yixing as a child-level genius, how can I not have a life-saving method? My defense formation disc can withstand the attack of a 9-star martial saint. Don't even think about hurting me. Let's see how long your astrology can last. Let's see how long you can keep it. Let's see how you can trap me after you withdraw your astrology." "Really? Are you sure I can't kill you?" Yixing's cold voice sounded. The purple feather spear in his hand disappeared and was replaced by the purple cloud bow and purple gold arrow. Chapter 291. Begging for a guaranteed monthly vote. Whoosh! Another ray of starlight flew out from between Yixing's eyebrows and turned into a huge starlight bow above Yixing. Using the Sagittarius constellation, Yixing's aura suddenly became many times sharper, as if it could pierce through the 9 heavens. Pull the bowstring and draw the bow. Whoosh! Endless star power fell from the Sagittarius constellation, causing the purple cloud bow and purple gold arrow in Yixing's hands to become incomparably bright, revealing a terrifying aura. Once this arrow was shot out, its power would definitely be extremely powerful and terrifying. Lord Watanabe, who was in the light shield of the formation, couldn't see Yixing's figure, but he felt a chill. Lord Watanabe's heart tightened. He looked up at the sky and saw the starlight bow. His heart jumped as if it was being ruthlessly squeezed by a big hand. Sagittarius. Sagittarius constellation? Lord Watanabe's face changed and he was shocked. He shouted in disbelief, "This is the legendary supreme constellation. How could it appear on your body? Also, how could you have 2 constellations? Impossible, this is impossible. This is all an illusion." Yixing spat out 3 words coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the bowstring was pulled and the purple gold arrow shot forward. A dragon roar was heard. The purple gold arrow turned into a huge green dragon and pounced on Lord Watanabe as fast as lightning. Lord Watanabe couldn't see the space outside the light shield, but he could feel a terrifying power coming to kill him. Especially the dragon roar that sounded, it made his soul tremble and he felt like crawling on the ground. The fear in his heart only flashed for a moment before it was extinguished by Lord Watanabe. His formation plate was specially made. It could even withstand the attack of a 9-star martial saint. Yixing was only a 6-star martial saint. Lord Watanabe didn't believe that Yixing's attack power could reach the level of a 9-star martial saint. In the blink of an eye, just as Watanabe changed his mind, the Azure Dragon arrow style fiercely bombarded the light shield of the formation. Boom! The Azure Dragon collided with the light barrier of the array formation, creating a deafening explosion. Young Master Watanabe's expression had just calmed down when he was shocked by the explosion. His eyes were filled with fear. The light shield that could defend against a 9-star martial saint's attack was shattered with a loud explosion. Then, the surroundings instantly turned dark. The light shield of the formation was broken. At the last moment, Watanabe seemed to see an arrow flying towards him. He could not believe that the power of this arrow was so terrifying. It was even more terrifying than the attack of a 9-star martial sage. This meant that Yixing's arrow could even kill a 9-star martial sage. The moment young Master Watanabe's array formation light shield broke apart, the moment he saw the arrow, he immediately felt goosebumps rising all over his body. Pushing his celestial essence to the limit, he activated his 2-All Luo celestial avatar and used the treasure sword in his hand to slash out in the direction of the arrow. Unfortunately, by the time he saw the arrow, it was already too late. Just as he was thinking and swinging the sword in his hand, a sharp pain came from his chest. The arrow had pierced through his chest. The purple gold arrow shot through young Master Watanabe's chest and came out from his back. It continued to shoot into the distance like a stream of light. A finger-sized bloody hole appeared in young Master Watanabe's chest. His body was sent flying by the force of the arrow and fell a few meters away. The arrow was aimed at young Master Watanabe's heart. If the heart was pierced, even a perfected person would die. Young Master Watanabe was just a 7-star martial saint. Needless to say, he would die without a doubt. The spiritual weapon treasure sword in his hand fell to the ground. Young Master Watanabe's vision became blurred and his consciousness became heavier. It was as if he was going to fall asleep and never wake up again. There's such a monster in this world. Young Master Watanabe used all his strength to say this sentence intermittently. As soon as he finished speaking, his chi dissipated. He was dead. Yixing withdrew the Sagittarius constellation and came to the side of young Master Watanabe's body. Black Hole Constellation, devour the mandate of heaven. Yixing activated the superbrain scan and looked at young Master Watanabe's head. At this moment, the Black Hole Constellation was crazily spinning and releasing a terrifying devouring power. The flame of destiny in young Master Watanabe's mind was gradually fading away. As for the flame of destiny in Yixing's mind, it gradually became more vigorous. Soon, the 9 orange flames merged together and became a single yellow flame. Yi Xing's destiny had a huge leap. It evolved from a martial saint destiny to a perfected person's destiny. Moreover, Yi Xing's destiny didn't stop evolving after reaching the 1-star yellow fate. The yellow flame became more and more vigorous. Soon, it split into a second flame. It rose to the 2-star yellow fate. Young Master Watanabe's destiny was a 3-star yellow fate. When the 3 yellow flames in his mind were completely devoured by the black hole constellation, the yellow flame in Yi Xing's mind split into a 3rd flame and rose to the 3-star yellow fate. Yi Xing withdrew the black hole constellation and the world of darkness disappeared. The surroundings returned to normal. Yi Xing's face revealed a satisfied smile. A 3-star yellow fate meant that as long as one had a cultivation method, they would definitely become a 3-star perfected person in this lifetime. In the 700 years since the founding of there hadn't been a second genius with such a high destiny other than the founding ancestor, perfected person Starfall. Now Yi Xing was the second. Moreover, as long as he had the black hole constellation, a 3-star fate was far from Yi Xing's limit. He could still continue to improve. As the demon star of troubled times, and a supreme one at that, Yi Xing's future was limitless. Yi Xing put away young Master Watanabe's storage ring and the dropped spiritual weapons. Then he activated the Starfire Seed and burned young Master Watanabe's corpse. Yi Xing released his celestial essence and formed a pair of bat-shaped wings. Using the heavenly bat steps and the wind force, he was like a flying bat, streaking across the sky. With a glide, he covered several miles and followed the original path back to the mountain where he rested last night. At this moment, the battle between the 4 sects was still fierce. The East supporting sect and Flying Cloud sect's disciples only surrounded them but didn't kill them. The Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect's disciples tried to break through several times but failed. The 2 sides had the same number of people and strength. Although the East supporting sect and Flying Cloud sect had the upper hand, it was impossible for them to kill the Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect's disciples. However, the East supporting sect and Flying Cloud sect's disciples had a plan from the beginning. They only surrounded the Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect's disciples to prevent them from escaping. When Watanabe returned after killing Yi Xing, they would naturally die. It's over, it's over. It's not easy for me to cultivate to this level. It's not easy for me to come to the Azure Cloud Ancient Land. Could it be that the Azure Cloud Ancient Land is going to be my burial ground? Most of the Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect's disciples were anxious and pessimistic. Haha, Yi Xing, that ant, must have been killed by Watanabe. When Watanabe returns, all of you will be finished. The men will be killed on the spot and the women will be raped before being killed. Ha! The East supporting sect and Flying Cloud sect's disciples were all excited, especially the male disciples. They stared at the beautiful female disciples of the Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect with lustful eyes. At this moment, a figure glided in the sky in the distance. The East supporting sect and Flying Cloud sect's disciples who were waiting for Watanabe's return were overjoyed. Ha! Watanabe is back. Your death is here. The East supporting sect and Flying Cloud sect's disciples laughed. The East supporting sect and Spirit Moon sect's disciples were pale and panicked. Emo Shilan's eyes showed a trace of fear. Watanabe had said that he wanted to toy with her. If she fell into his hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. Emo Shilan shouted, "Let's fight with them. Even if it means risking our lives, we must rush out." As soon as she said that, Emo Shilan completely gave up on defense and launched a fierce attack at Dong Xuanyue who was blocking her. She used all of her trump cards. Dong Xuanyue's strength was slightly inferior to Emo Shilan's, so she was forced to retreat. However, there were not many who dared to risk their lives like Emo Shilan, so the enemy's encirclement was not completely broken. Whoosh! Yun Feng's figure flashed and came to Dong Xuanyue's side. He blocked Emo Shilan's attack and said, "Let me deal with her. She can't escape. You go deal with that trash Marin." The disciples of the 4 sects couldn't see the figure clearly and thought it was Watanabe. However, Yi Xing could see the situation clearly and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 292. Yi Xing glided in the sky, rising and falling at a very fast speed. As he got closer, the disciples of Dongfu sect and Flying Cloud sect were shocked. It was not Master Watanabe, but Yi Xing. This was totally out of their expectation. Yi Xing came back, but Master Watanabe was nowhere to be seen. Didn't that mean that Master Watanabe was killed by Yi Xing? How could this be? Realizing this, the disciples of the Dongfu sect and the Flying Cloud sect sucked in a breath of cold air, revealing looks of disbelief. The disciples of Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect were also shocked. However, they were not shocked, but pleasantly surprised. Since Yi Xing came back, there was only one result. Although this result was very surprising, the disciples of Falling Star sect and Spirit Moon sect accepted this fact more easily than the disciples of Dongfu sect and Flying Cloud sect. Let's go! Flying Cloud sect's first disciple, Yun Feng, shouted. At this moment, there were 2 handprints on his face. He was terrified of Yi Xing from the bottom of his heart. Don't let them escape. Mo Xilan also shouted. Previously, they were all besieged and wanted to catch them all. Now that the situation was reversed, how could they let them escape? Seeing Yi Xing's figure, the disciples of Falling Star sect and Flying Cloud sect who were pessimistic and were about to surrender cheered up. Their morale was high, and they attacked the opponent like a storm. On the other hand, the disciples of the East supporting sect and the Flying Cloud sect were shocked and terrified. Yi Xing's return had scared them out of their wits and made them extremely flustered. Their aura instantly plummeted and they were on the verge of collapse. At this time, they wanted to escape, but in the face of the fierce attacks of the disciples of Falling Star sect and Flying Cloud sect, how could they escape in a hurry? Yi Xing's speed was very fast. When the crowd saw him clearly, the distance between them was less than 10 miles. After 2 glides, Yi Xing arrived in about 10 breaths. A flash of light. Yi Xing descended from the sky, and the dark spear light drew a straight line, penetrating hundreds of meters in an instant. The martial artists only saw a blur in front of their eyes. In the next moment, Yi Xing stopped in his tracks. The purple feather spear had already killed 3 enemies. 2 disciples from the Dongfu sect and 1 from the Flying Cloud sect had been killed by Yi Xing in a single move. Their corpses were skewered on the violet feather spear. Of these 3 people, 1 was a 6-star martial sage while the other 2 were 5-star martial sages. In any sect, they would be the core strength. However, in front of Yi Xing, they were completely vulnerable. As soon as Yi Xing arrived, he killed 3 people with a single spear strike, which made all the disciples of the Dongfu sect and the Flying Cloud sect tremble in fear. Their hearts beat so fast that they almost jumped out of their throats. The disciples of the Dongfu sect and the Flying Cloud sect were all martial saints. Although they were afraid, they were not so cowardly that they did not even dare to resist. The more they feared death, the more their desire for life was aroused. Each of them unleashed their strength to the limit, wanting to escape. Some of them succeeded, but some were still pinned down by the disciples of the Falling Star sect and the Spirit Moon sect, unable to escape. Yi Xing used the wind force and the heavenly bat steps to the limit. His speed was as fast as lightning. He ignored the disciples of the Dongfu sect and the Flying Cloud sect who could not escape, and launched a lightning-fast attack on those who succeeded in escaping. None of the martial artists present could compete with Yi Xing in terms of speed. They had just escaped when they were faced with Yi Xing's attack, and they were already on the road to death. Yi Xing's figure was like lightning, and the dark spear light cut through the void. With every spear strike, an enemy fell. Puff Yi Xing blocked in front of Yun Bin, and the violet feather spear stabbed out, directly tearing the opponent's defense and piercing through Yun Bin's heart. Even a 7-star martial sage could not block Yi Xing's spear strike. Yi Xing's gaze turned, and he locked onto his next target, Yun Feng. Although Yun Feng's strength was slightly better than Mo Xilan's, he had been trapped by Mo Xilan's desperate attacks several times. At this moment, seeing Yi Xing's gaze sweep over, his heart immediately turned cold. He regretted it very much. If he had known that Yi Xing actually had the strength to kill Lord Watanabe, he would never have dared to fight against Yi Xing, even if he had 1,000 times more courage. Sun Change Sword Technique, Sun in the sky. Feeling the danger of death, Yun Feng's strength exploded to the limit. He let out a loud roar and attacked Mo Shilin with Sun in the sky. With the support of the power of the stars, the spiritual weapon in Yun Feng's hand shone brightly like the sun. It was unstoppable, and Mo Shilin was defeated. Yun Feng's figure flashed, and at the same time, he retreated quickly, wanting to escape. However, his speed paused, and Yi Xing was already in front of him. Yi Xing held the purple feather spear and pointed it at the sky. He stared coldly at Yun Feng and walked over step by step. Seeing this, Mo Shilin ignored Yun Feng and attacked the 7-star martial Saint Dong Xianxia. Now, several disciples of the East supporting sect and the Flying Cloud sect had already died, especially Yun Bin, who was killed by Yi Xing, and Yun Feng was blocked by Yi Xing. Only Dong Xianxia was left as a 7-star martial saint, and she was powerless to reverse the situation. Whether in terms of strength or numbers, there was already a huge gap between the two sides. The disciples of the East supporting sect and the Flying Cloud sect had no way out. Let me live, and I'll give you whatever you want. Yun Feng looked at Yi Xing, who was walking over step by step. His heart trembled, and he did not dare to make a move. He forced himself to be calm and said, "I only want your life." Yi Xing's expression was calm, and his tone was cold, containing killing intent. Yun Feng's face was pale, and his breathing was rapid. He said, "Oh? Yi Xing, I offended you in the past, and I can apologize to you. Let me live, and I'll do whatever you want me to do." When he said the last 4 words, Yun Feng's body started to tremble. "I beg you." In the Flying Cloud sect, Yun Feng was a genius of the generation, and he was so high and mighty. In his entire life, he had never uttered the word beg. However, when his life was in the hands of others, he instinctively uttered it out of instinct. Although he felt that it was extremely humiliating to say it, and although he felt that it was difficult to say it, he was still afraid of death, and said it. Yi Xing looked at Yun Feng, shook his head coldly, and said, "Yun Feng, in fact, you are a piece of trash that people look down on. If you fight to the death, in my eyes, you still have some dignity. But now, you are a piece of trash that is even worse than a dog." Yun Feng's face instantly twisted, and his eyes were full of hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, "Yi Xing, I've already lowered my status. This is the first time in my life that I beg someone, and you dare to humiliate me like this. Aren't you afraid that I'll die with you?" Yi Xing shook his head and continued to say, "Piece of trash." Ah! Yun Feng's eyes turned blood red, and he was completely furious. "Then let's die together." Whoosh! In an instant, endless flames gushed out of Yun Feng's body, and his aura soared several times, rising to the level of an 8-star martial saint. Yun Feng burned her celestial essence, her energy, and her life to perform a suicidal secret technique. Burning everything and bursting out the most brilliant attack, this secret technique could only be practiced by warriors of the fire attribute. Sword of Dusk. Yun Feng roared loudly, and it was the last roar of his life. After burning everything, his life was about to come to an end. Yun Feng performed the Sword of Dusk at this moment, which was suitable for the essence of the Sword of Dusk, so the power of this sword technique was multiplied. Yi Xing instantly activated his super brain to scan. Yun Feng's attack was close to Master Watanabe's strongest attack when he didn't use his astrology. His attack power was close to first class among the 8-star martial saints. Master Watanabe was no match for Yi Xing if he didn't use his astrology, and Yun Feng was no match for him at this moment. Dark Spirit Spear. Yi Xing scanned the weakest point of his opponent's attack, and he struck out with his spear. Pushing his celestial essence to the limit, the force of darkness, the force of wind, and the force of fire all integrated into this move. Yi Xing also unleashed his strongest attack. Boom! The sword light and the spear light collided, and heaven and earth shook. The violent airflow exploded, and the sand and stones within a radius of hundreds of feet were sent flying. In the explosion, Yun Feng's body suddenly shook, as if he was hit by a fierce horse, and his body shot backward. In the air, he couldn't control the burning star essence in his body anymore, and it directly exploded. Sparks flew, and his whole body exploded into pieces. Yun Feng's attack was a suicide attack. If he won, he would die, but if he lost, he would die faster. Yun Feng died, and the battle on the other side also came to an end. Under the suppression of absolute strength, the disciples of the Dongfu sect and the Flying Cloud sect were all annihilated. Today was the first and important day to fight for the monthly votes. According to the original plan, I started writing in the morning, and I had to finish the 4th update during the day. Sigh. But after I finished writing the first chapter, I saw the monthly votes, and my heart instantly turned cold, as if someone poured a bucket of cold water on my head. On the first day of the month, after the 4th update, the monthly votes of the Archer God plummeted, and he was almost out of the top 50. My eyes were wet and my mind was blank. The passion of writing disappeared instantly. Was the Archer God born to be behind others, and could only pursue his life? Why was that? I don't know. I've been writing with all my might, I've been working hard, but the monthly votes just keep dropping. I really don't know. Sigh. Even if the monthly votes were bad, there was nothing I could do. I still had to write. I gritted my teeth and forced myself to write. Although the speed was slow and the time was late, the 4th update would still be available today. I really hoped that after I worked hard, I could have the support of the readers and get a monthly vote. Chapter 293. The battle stopped. Everywhere was a scene of devastation. Traces of attacks could be seen everywhere, whether it was on the ground or on the rocks. The corpses of the disciples of the Dongfu sect and the Flying Cloud sect were scattered everywhere. The ground was stained with blood. It was a ghastly sight. If it was on Earth, such a scene would definitely be shocking. Most people would be scared out of their wits and even vomit. However, in the Star Continent, the world of martial artists was full of killing and blood. Such scenes were common. The disciples of the Falling Star sect and the Spiritual Moon sect were used to it. Only a few disciples who had never ventured out felt the blood and terror. If Yi Xing had seen such a scene when he first arrived in the Star Continent, he would definitely be shocked. However, he had already experienced many life and death situations. Looking at the scene in front of him, his heart was as calm as water. There was no ripple. It even aroused his indifference to life. In the Star Continent, in the world of martial artists, one could only be indifferent to life. If one was sad because of the death of someone unrelated to them, then one would have to live in sadness every day and night. One could only be indifferent to the death of someone unrelated to them. It was even more indifferent to the death of one's enemies. No matter how much love one had, it was not the right to be emotional about the death of one's enemies. Yi Xing took the storage rings of the enemies he killed one by one. These were all spoils of war. The other disciples of the Falling Star sect and the Flying Cloud sect did the same. There were even 2 disciples of the Falling Star sect who were arguing about the ownership of the storage ring of a disciple of the Dongfu sect. Senior Brother Qi, I killed this person. Zhao Dong, who was ranked 8th among the core disciples of the stood beside the corpse of a disciple of the Dongfu sect and looked at Qi Jingyang. Qi Jingyang coldly glanced at Zhao Dong and said, Zhao Dong, if I hadn't stabbed this kid before, you wouldn't have been able to kill him with your mediocre skills. Move aside, his storage ring is mine. Zhao Dong was obviously a little weak in front of Qi Jingyang's strength. However, he was unwilling to give up a storage ring that contained the things of the Dongfu sect disciple. Zhao Dong pursed his lips and didn't back down. He said, Senior Brother Qi, you've already taken 2 storage rings. I haven't even taken one. When we were surrounded just now, I even blocked a sword for you. Look. As he spoke, Zhao Dong pointed at his left shoulder. There was a sword wound there, and the flesh was torn open. The wound was very deep. Qi Jingyang glared at Zhao Dong. Or I will beat you every time I see you. Everyone's eyes were attracted by Qi Jingyang's voice. The disciples of the Spirit Moon sect furrowed their brows. They couldn't stand it anymore. However, the quarrel was between the disciples of the Fallen Star sect and the Spirit Moon sect had no right to interfere. Just as Zhao Dong was about to grit his teeth and swallow his anger, Yixing's figure flashed like a stream of light and appeared in front of Qi Jingyang. Yixing's palm arrived and slapped Qi Jingyang's face. Qi Jingyang was only a 6-star martial saint. Although his cultivation was already at the peak of the 6th stage, a 7-star martial saint had been sent flying by Yixing's slap. Qi Jingyang screamed as he was sent flying even further. "You're worse than a pig and a dog. You only know how to show off in front of your fellow disciples," Yixing said coldly. He looked away from Qi Jingyang and waved his hand at Zhao Dong. "Take it yourself." The hearts of the Falling Star sect disciples jumped. They thought that among all the disciples, only Yixing dared to attack Qi Jingyang. The others did not have the courage. As for the Spirit Moon sect disciples, they were inexplicably happy and smiled when they saw Qi Jingyang being sent flying. Zhao Dong swallowed his saliva and widened his eyes. When he heard Yixing's words, he quickly reacted and bowed to Yixing. "Thank you, senior brother Yixing." Then, he took the storage ring of the Dong Fu sect disciple beside him. Yixing did not look at Qi Jingyang again. He waved his hand at the crowd and said, "Let's continue." In the distance, Qi Jingyang clenched his fists and his eyes were filled with hatred and anger. However, no matter how strong his anger was, he did not dare to show it in front of Yixing. He did not even dare to look at Yixing. To deal with arrogant people, the only way was to suppress them with absolute strength and then be more arrogant than them. This way, they would not even dare to fart. The disciples of the Falling Star sect and the Spirit Moon sect continued to go deeper into the Azure Cloud ancient land under the lead of Yixing. The Flying Cloud sect had secretly colluded with the Dong Fu sect to catch all the disciples of the Falling Star sect and the Spirit Moon sect in one fell swoop. They would never have thought that it would be their own disciples who would be caught in one fell swoop. On the 3rd day, Yixing and the others had already gone deep into the Azure Cloud ancient land. Along the way, they did not meet anyone other than the disciples of the Dong Fu sect. The disciples were scattered here, looking for opportunities on their own. Some formed small teams and some went alone. Although many disciples wanted to team up with Yixing rejected them all. He wanted to go to the Cumulus Valley alone. The Cumulus Valley was the place where Xianxia had obtained the Eye of Blue Cloud. Yixing was going there to obtain the complete Eye of Blue Cloud. This was a supreme grade spiritual martial art. Yixing did not want anyone to know about it. A supreme grade spiritual martial art was too precious. If the news was leaked, it would cause endless trouble. This was a treasure that could attract the attention of the 9 upper sects. Yixing knew the location of the Cumulus Valley. The entrance he chose was the entrance that Xianxia had used to enter the Azure Cloud ancient land 15 years ago. He only knew the way to the Cumulus Valley from this entrance. The Azure Cloud ancient land was very vast. Xianxia did not know the specific geographical environment of the Azure Cloud ancient land. If Yixing had entered from another entrance, he might not have found the Cumulus Valley. After parting with the group, Yixing spent another 2 days to reach the Cumulus Valley. When he arrived, Yixing knew why Xianxia had named the valley as the Cumulus Valley. It was because the sky above the valley was completely covered by clouds. The surrounding sky was spotless. It was as if all the clouds in the nearby sky were squeezed into the sky above the valley. Moreover, because there were too many clouds, some of them had already landed on the ground. Most of the valley was covered by clouds and could not be seen clearly. It was very appropriate to call it the Cumulus Valley. Yixing walked along the path and entered the valley. He activated his super brain to scan. It was not that there was nothing in the clouds, but it was also not that there was anything. It was just that there were different overlapping spaces. In the Cumulus Valley, there was a chaotic space. Yixing walked into the area covered by clouds and entered the place where the spaces overlapped. The scene around him suddenly changed and he appeared in front of a big hall. The big hall was about 100 meters tall and had 3 floors. It was called the Treasure Hall. In front of him was a door that was about 70 feet tall. Inside and outside the door, there was nothing. Yixing walked forward and entered the Treasure Hall. Xianxia had obtained the first part of the Azure Cloud Eye on the 1st floor. The dangers on the first floor were all cleared by Xianxia. The second part of the Azure Cloud Eye, was on the second floor of the treasure hall. Xianxia's strength was limited back then and he could not fight his way up. Yixing came to the right rear of the hall. There was a staircase that led to the second floor. The staircase was very wide, about 30 feet tall. According to Xianxia, in the middle of the staircase, there were 2 puppet guards that were equivalent to early 8-star martial saints. He had already killed them. However, at the end of the staircase, there were 2 puppet guards that were equivalent to peak 8-star martial saints. He had tried a few times but could not defeat them. Instead, he had almost lost his life. Yixing walked up the staircase. After going around a corner, he saw the 2 puppet guards at the end of the staircase. The puppet guards were about 2 meters tall. One of them used a saber and the other a sword. One of them was on the left and the other on the right. They guarded the 2 sides of the staircase. The way of puppets belonged to the study of mechanisms and was a branch of the study of mechanisms. It was very rare in martial arts. There were not many martial artists in the Azure Cloud region who knew about mechanisms. Those who knew about the way of puppets were even more unheard of. The 2 puppet guards were equivalent to 8-star martial saints. Yixing did not feel any pressure at all. Taking out the purple feather spear, Yixing strode forward. When Yixing was about 10 feet away from the 2 puppet guards, the eyes of the 2 puppet guards lit up, as if they were alive. Chapter 294. Sword and saber lights flashed as the 2 guardian puppets attacked Yixing at the same time as they woke up. The combined attack of 2 peak 8-star martial saints was as powerful as young Master Watanabe using his astrology. Xiao's brain had already activated its scanning mode, and he was able to clearly see the movements of the 2 guardian puppets. His purple feather spear unleashed a burst of black spear aura toward the 2 guardian puppets with boundless power. The power of darkness, the power of wind, and the power of fire. Each spear attack contained 3 different powers of the heavens and earth. It was extremely fast and powerful. The attacks of the 2 guardian puppets were very direct. They either hacked or chopped. The more direct the attack, the faster it was. If Yixing's wind power had not reached the intricate realm, he would not have been able to keep up with the attacks of the 2 guardian puppets. Ding ding ding. Ding 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 ding. The purple feather spear and the saber and sword of the guardian puppets were constantly clashing. Sometimes, they would even clash 2 or 3 times at the same time. It could be seen how fast their attacks were. With such a fast attack, even though there were many flaws in the moves, the 2 puppet guards worked together and cooperated with each other to cover up the flaws in each other's attacks. Although it wasn't to the extent of being flawless, it was still extremely difficult to attack their flaws. Facing the lightning-fast attacks of the 2 guardian puppets, Yixing could only keep up with their rhythm and keep waving his spear to block. If Yixing used his astrology power or archery skills, it would not be difficult for him to destroy the 2 guardian puppets. However, Yixing was happy to fight with the 2 guardian puppets head-on. After becoming a 6-star martial saint, Yixing's middle-level spiritual martial force had a lot of room for improvement. Now, fighting head-on with the 2 guardian puppets had a significant effect on improving his dark spirit spear art. Reaching the 2nd level wasn't a problem for Yixing. The improvement of his dark spirit spear art was what Yixing truly valued. After confirming that he wanted to practice with the 2 guardian puppets, Yixing stopped scanning with his super brain. Instead, he used his black hole astrology. In the dark space, Yixing's senses were sharper and his reaction was faster. The most important thing was that Yixing's dark spirit spear art was much faster in the world of darkness. Time flew by, and Yixing continued to fight. His celestial essence and spiritual energy were constantly consumed. It wasn't until Yixing felt exhausted that he started to retreat. When Yixing retreated to the 1st floor of the main hall, the 2 puppet guards stopped attacking and returned to their original positions. The guardian puppet's range of movement was limited. Because of this, Yixing dared to fight it until he was on the verge of collapse. On the 1st floor of the main hall, Yixing sat cross-legged and took out low-rank celestial crystals to cultivate and restore his celestial essence. At this time, his body was like a dry sponge, and the celestial essence was like water. When Yi Xing cultivated, his body crazily absorbed the celestial essence. While restoring his celestial essence, Yi Xing also felt that the strength of his celestial essence was still increasing. His middle-level falling star art had been cultivated to the highest level, and his celestial essence was still strengthening during cultivation. From this, it could be seen that inheritances, like martial arts, didn't have a limit. After martial arts reached perfection, there was still the transformation realm. When one cultivated inheritances to the highest level, there was still room for improvement. Moreover, during the process of draining and slowly recovering his celestial essence, Yi Xing felt that his physical strength was also improving. His physical strength had already surpassed that of other martial saints, but now, the gap was widening. After recovering, Yi Xing continued to move forward, fighting with the two guardian puppets and continuing to cultivate the dark spirit spear art. Time passed slowly. Yi Xing and the two guardian puppets went through one battle after another, and his attainments in the dark spirit spear art improved by leaps and bounds. When he was tired, he would use low-rank celestial crystals to restore his celestial essence. When he was hungry, he would eat the dry food he carried with him. Occasionally, he would roast the tender meat of the crystal fire beast or the frost python. However, such top-quality ingredients should not be eaten frequently. If eaten continuously, even the best ingredients would become ordinary, which was simply a waste of God's gifts. Therefore, after feasting for a period of time in the Stellar Hall, Yi Xing decided that he would eat less of both the crystal fire beast's tender meat and the frost python's meat, so that every time he ate them, he would have a rich aftertaste. Yi Xing had a lot of tender meat of the crystal fire beast and the frost python. Even though he had eaten a lot in the Star Hall and later shared some with his two masters, Lin Fenghua and Zi Shanhou, he still had a lot. 9 days later, Yi Xing's dark spirit spear art had reached the perfection realm, which took less time than Yi Xing's. One reason was because Yi Xing's cultivation was higher, and the other was because Yi Xing's wind force had reached the refinement realm, which allowed him to have better control over his moves. With the perfection realm of the dark spirit spear art, the power of the dark spirit spear art had increased by another level. Yi Xing easily destroyed the two guardian puppets in a head-on battle and ascended to the second floor. Yi Xing's pupils shrank. There were a total of 5 guardian puppets on the second floor. The 2 at the front were equivalent to early 9-star martial saints, the 2 in the middle were equivalent to late 9-star martial saints, and the last one was equivalent to a peak 9-star martial saint. Behind the peak 9-star martial sage puppet guard, there was a stone platform, which was covered by a light shield. On the stone platform, there was a scroll that was emitting light. Yi Xing scanned it and found that it was not a physical scroll, but a body of energy. Yi Xing's heart skipped a beat. This scroll was very likely the second volume of the Eye of Clear Cloud, the Eye of Cloud Pupil. In order to obtain this scroll, he had to first break the light shield of the formation. In order to break the light shield, he had to first kill the 5 guardian puppets. Yi Xing felt that it was a pity. If this scroll was real, he could directly scan the contents of the scroll. As for the energy body, Yi Xing could not scan the contents at all. He could only scan that this energy body was a power that he did not understand. Yi Xing took out the purple cloud bow and the purple gold arrow. In order to deal with the 5 guardian puppets, who were equivalent to 9-star martial saints, Yi Xing had to use all his trump cards. Black hole astrology, Sagittarius astrology, flame astrology. Yi Xing used the 3 astrology at the same time and exploded with a monstrous aura. The purple cloud bow was drawn and the purple gold arrow was knocked. Yi Xing used the 4 symbols arrow technique and the arrow immediately broke through the air. Vermilion bird arrow technique. The arrow turned into a burning vermilion bird and instantly shot at the head of a guardian puppet, who was equivalent to an early 9-star martial saint. There was a loud boom. The puppet guard's head was struck by the arrow, and the terrifying force exploded its head into smithereens. A guardian puppet was destroyed. This loud sound alarmed the other guardian puppets. Their eyes lit up and they all woke up. However, the aura of Yi Xing's attack enveloped these guardian puppets. They all fell into a world of darkness and did not know where Yixing was. Yixing drew the bow again. This arrow destroyed the second guardian puppet, who was equivalent to an early 9-star martial saint. Soon, the third arrow was shot. The fourth arrow. The fifth arrow. The purple cloud bow was a top mid-grade spiritual bow. In addition to the power of the Sagittarius astrology and the 4 symbols arrow technique, the arrows shot by Yixing were extremely powerful. When Yixing was a 5-star martial saint, Zi Shanhou had said that with Yixing's attainments in archery, he could use the purple cloud bow to kill a 9-star martial saint. Now that Yixing was a 6-star martial saint, killing a 9-star martial saint was naturally not a problem. Yixing even felt that it was hard to say if a half-step enlightened being could block his arrows. 2 arrows of the vermilion bird arrow style, 2 arrows of the white tiger arrow style, and 1 arrow of the azure dragon arrow style. The 5 guardian puppets were all taken care of. The danger on the second floor of the treasure hall was gone. Yixing scanned the entire second floor. After confirming that there were no more dangers, he took a big step forward and came to the front of the stone platform. He took out the purple feather spear and stabbed it. The light shield of the array was instantly pierced through. The crack expanded and disappeared without a trace. The glowing scroll on the stone platform flew up on its own and turned into a ray of light, flying into Yixing's mind. Yixing's eyes lit up. It was indeed the second half of the Eyes of Azure Cloud, the Eye of Cloud. When combined with the Eye of Azure Cloud, in his mind, it would be the complete supreme grade spiritual martial skill, the Eyes of Azure Cloud. Yixing was instantly excited. Since entering the Azure Cloud ancient land, he had been looking forward to the moment when he could obtain the complete Eyes of Azure Cloud. He had only been in the Azure Cloud ancient land for half a month, and he had already done it. Of course, he was very excited. A supreme grade spiritual martial skill was a peerless martial skill that only a superior 1-star sect would have. Even the top 10 sects in the Azure Cloud region did not have such a martial skill. From now on, Yixing had it. Chapter 295. In his mind, the inheritance of the Eyes of Azure Eyes and Eyes of Cloud Eyes merged to form the complete Eyes of Azure Clouds. Yixing felt something and immediately sat down. Calming his mind, he closed his eyes and meditated. His superbrain was working quickly to analyze the Eyes of Azure Clouds and slowly cultivate. Yixing sat there for 3 days and 3 nights. On the 4th day, Yixing opened his eyes. There was a flash of azure light in his eyes. Then, he felt a little hazy as if there was a layer of mist covering his eyes. Yixing felt something and completed the transformation of the Eyes of Azure Eyes to Eyes of Cloud Eyes. From now on, his eye technique was no longer a middle spiritual martial art, but an extreme spiritual martial art. Of course, Yixing's cloud pupil was only at the beginning. It was not even at the beginner level yet. With his current cultivation, it was already a miracle that he could complete the transformation from green pupil to cloud pupil. The Eyes of Azure Clouds had a great effect on demonic beasts. When Yixing's eye technique turned into Eyes of Cloud Eyes, it meant that some level 3 demonic beasts would be affected or even controlled by Yixing's eye technique. Level 3 demonic beasts were equivalent to Astral Realm Enlightened Masters. In other words, if there were level 3 demonic beasts nearby, Yixing could control them to fight against Astral Realm Enlightened Masters. For a 6-star martial sage, this was an extremely heaven-defying method. Yixing stood up with a smile on his face. He was very satisfied with the progress of the Eyes of Azure Clouds. From the outside, the treasure hall has 3 floors. This is only the 2nd floor and there is already a complete extreme spiritual martial art, the Eyes of Azure Clouds. What will be on the 3rd floor? Yixing thought to himself as he looked at the staircase leading to the 3rd floor. Just like the 1st floor, the stairs were on the right. There were no puppet guards between the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor. Yixing easily reached the 3rd floor. The layout of the 3rd floor was similar to the 2nd floor. There were also 5 puppet guards. At the end of the floor was a stone platform. On the stone platform, there was a glowing object that was surrounded by a light shield. However, when Yixing scanned the 5 guardian puppets with his super brain, His pupils shrank, and his heart skipped a beat. These 5 guardian puppets were all half-step Taoist masters. The 5 guardian puppets stood in a 5-pointed star formation. The distance between them wasn't too far. Compared to the 5 guardian puppets on the second floor, they were much closer. It was very likely that attacking one of them would cause the other 4 to attack as well. If it was just one puppet guard that was equivalent to a half-step enlightened being, Yi Xing would be confident in killing it. However, if there were 5 of them, then Yi Xing would feel immense pressure. Unable to think of a way to deal with the 5 guardian puppets, Yi Xing shifted his gaze to the stone platform at the end of the hall. He scanned the glowing items on the stone platform. Yi Xing's heart thumped violently once again. His eyes were filled with incomparable shock and joy. The item on the stone platform was different from the one on the second floor. It was not an energy body, but a physical treasure. It was a supreme-grade spiritual artifact. If it was a weapon, it could be called a spiritual weapon. However, if it was not a weapon, it could only be called a spiritual artifact. The physical artifact on the stone platform was not a weapon but a pair of wings. The wings were green in color, and they were only the size of a palm. Yi Xing was very clear about what a wing-shaped spiritual artifact meant. It was a flying spiritual artifact. If a martial artist wanted to fly in the air with their own strength, they would have to reach the venerable realm first. When martial sages and enlightened beings flew in the air, they could not be considered flying, but gliding. However, a flying spiritual artifact could allow a martial artist below the venerable realm to fly in the air. As long as they had an endless supply of celestial essence, they could fly for thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles, or even further. There was an essential difference between flying and gliding. Moreover, a flying spiritual artifact had another important function, which was to increase one's speed. For a short period of time, one's speed could be increased to an astonishing level. For a long-distance flight, one's speed would be much faster than gliding. Yi Xing's speed was incomparably fast. He was definitely at the top of the martial sages. If he had a flying spiritual artifact, his speed would be even more shocking. Anyone below the enlightened being level would not even be able to touch the corner of his clothes. However, the flying spiritual artifact in front of him was a top-grade spiritual artifact. The increase in speed was even more amazing. If Yi Xing obtained it, perhaps even an enlightened being would not be able to match his speed. Yi Xing looked at the shining flying spiritual artifact on the stone platform. He was reluctant to look away. Of course, Yi Xing would not give up on such a treasure. However, if he wanted to obtain this pair of wings, he would have to first challenge the 5 guardian puppets. The 5 guardian puppets were equivalent to half-step enlightened beings. This made Yi Xing frown. The chances of him destroying the 5 guardian puppets were almost zero. Yi Xing stood beside the stairs. His superbrain was operating at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. He was trying to think of a way to obtain the flying spiritual artifact. Since he couldn't defeat the 5 guardian puppets, was it possible to bypass the 5 guardian puppets' defense and directly obtain the air transportation spiritual artifact? If he was fast enough, it was possible. However, what if he was not fast enough and was surrounded by the 5 guardian puppets? Being surrounded by the 5 guardian puppets would mean losing his life. As Yi Xing was surrounded, his eyes suddenly lit up. He remembered the 2 guardian puppets at the entrance of the second floor. As long as he ran out of the range of the stairs, they would stop and return to their original position. Yi Xing thought that the guardian puppets on the 3rd floor should have a limited range. If he could not hold on and escape to the 2nd floor, the guardian puppets would not chase after him. Then he would have a way out. Let's give it a try first. If I'm fast enough, I'll bypass the guardian puppets and obtain the flying spiritual artifact. If I'm not fast enough, I can use these guardian puppets to practice the heavenly bat steps. If my mastery of the heavenly bat steps is high enough and I'm fast enough, I'll definitely be able to bypass the 5 guardian puppets and obtain the flying spiritual artifact. Yi Xing thought for a while and made up his mind. Standing at the edge of the stairs, Yi Xing took out the spirit pattern bow and ebony arrow and shot an arrow at one of the guardian puppets. When one of the guardian puppets was attacked, all the other guardian puppets woke up. Their eyes lit up and the guardian puppet that was attacked was the first to rush at Yixing. Yixing immediately used the heavenly bat steps and ran up the stairs to the second floor. In the end, Yixing found that the guardian puppets did not chase up the stairs. He stopped for a while and did not see any of the guardian puppets come down. He was sure that he did not need to run to the second floor. He only needed to run up the stairs and the guardian puppets would stop attacking. In this way, he would be safer. Running up the stairs was obviously easier than running to the second floor. Yixing returned to the third floor and the 5 guardian puppets returned to their original positions. Whoosh! A ray of starlight rushed out from between Yixing's eyebrows and the surroundings suddenly turned dark. Yixing used the black hole astrology. In the world of darkness, Yixing's reaction was the most sensitive. Then Yixing used the Sagittarius astrology and the flame astrology. At this time, Yixing took out the purple cloud bow and the purple gold arrow. Now that he had a way out, Yixing wanted to try and see if he could kill the guardian puppets that were equivalent to half-step perfected persons. He drew the bow and released the arrow. The purple gold arrow shot out in an instant and turned into a roaring azure dragon. 4 symbols arrow technique, azure dragon arrow style. 3 kinds of astrology, 3 kinds of worldly momentum, the power of the second realm of archery, and the 4 symbols arrow technique at the greater success stage. All the power was contained in this arrow. Yixing shot out the strongest arrow. This arrow was enough to kill any 9-star martial saint. However, Yixing's target was not only equivalent to a 9-star martial saint, but a half-step perfected person. A half-step perfected person's celestial essence had begun to transform into astral energy. Their strength was much higher than a 9-star martial saint. Just the terrifying killing intent of this arrow alone made the target feel it and wake up. The treasure sword in its hand instantly slashed out an astral sword. Clang! The azure dragon's shadow was torn apart by the astral sword. The sword instantly slashed the purple gold arrow, causing the arrow to change direction and its power to be reduced by more than half. Even so, the purple gold arrow still carried terrifying power as it shot into the puppet guard's body, causing an explosion. The guardian puppet retreated a few steps. The place where the arrow hit had a fist-sized piece blown off. However, this was not a vital part and the guardian puppet was not made of flesh and blood. Therefore, this did not affect the guardian puppet's movement and strength. Today's update is a little late, sorry. Well, let me be honest with you, brothers. I went to watch the movie Wolf Warriors during the day. This is a movie written by Chidian's platinum author, Dancing Enchantress. It should be the first big movie with elements of web novels. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. When it was released today, I couldn't wait to watch it. It really lived up to my expectations. Well, after watching the movie, I was intoxicated by the movie for a long time. It wasn't until the next day that I recovered and started to write again. Today's update is a little difficult. There will definitely be a 3rd update. Is there a 4th update? After the 3rd update, will there still be time? Today's monthly votes are a little bleak. I dropped a few places on the ranking list. I thought I would be able to break 200 votes today, but it's so far away. Brothers, don't hide the monthly votes in your hands. Let the archer god try again. If the monthly votes break 200 today, I won't sleep tonight. I'll write the 4th update even if I have to stay up all night. Chapter 296. If it was a half-step martial sage, Yixing's arrow would definitely injure him severely. If Yixing continued to shoot arrows from a distance, he would have a high chance of killing his opponent. However, it was a different story if his target was a puppet. The puppet did not have the problem of being injured and quickly charged at Yixing. Furthermore, this was the treasure hall. There was not much space and Yixing did not have enough distance to use his archery skills. Facing the puppet's attack, Yixing could only use the heavenly bat movement technique to dodge. Yixing's heavenly bat movement technique had reached great perfection. Together with the wind force of the minute subtlety, his speed surpassed that of martial sages. Even if it was an attack from a half-step martial sage, it would not be difficult for him to dodge it. With a sound, Yi Xing's figure flashed and dodged the puppet's attack. Although the other 4 puppet had woken up long ago, they did not notice Yi Xing's figure in the world of darkness. At this moment, Yi Xing's body moved. The puppet's reaction to any movement was extremely sensitive. 4 astral swords chopped towards Yi Xing at almost the same time. Dodging one puppet's attack was easy. However, dodging 4 puppets' attack was a little difficult. Although the 4 astral swords chopped in the same direction, their angles were completely different. They immediately sealed off most of Yi Xing's escape routes. However, the wind force of the minute subtlety allowed him to move exceptionally quickly in a small area. As Yi Xing's figure flashed, it looked as if he was struck by one of the astral swords. However, in reality, it was only an afterimage. His real body had already dodged to the side. Xiao 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 xiao. The 5 puppets' attacks were swift and fierce. Their astral swords chopped towards Yi Xing one after another. Yi Xing could only push his speed to the limit and use all his strength to dodge the puppets' attacks. Although the pressure was great, he still managed to endure the attacks of the 5 puppets' attacks. This was naturally due to Yi Xing's speed. However, the black hole astrology was also very important. Yi Xing was in the world of darkness. The darkness was like his sense of touch. Yi Xing could clearly sense the attacks of the 5 puppets' attacks and predict the enemy's moves. Other martial sages or half-step martial sages would not be able to endure the attacks of the 5 puppets' attacks even if they had Yi Xing's speed. In the beginning, Yi Xing dodged the attacks of the 5 puppets' attacks in a rather difficult and hurried manner. However, as time passed, Yi Xing gradually adapted to the attacks of the 5 puppets' attacks. Although he still could not break through the defense of the 5 puppets' attacks, using them to practice the heavenly bat footwork was not a problem at all. The improvement of the heavenly bat footwork was faster than the dark spirit spear art. The wind force of the minute subtlety realm was extremely useful for the cultivation of Qigong. After all, ordinary martial artists could only comprehend the wind force to the minute subtlety realm after becoming a 7-star martial sage. However, Yi Xing was only a 6-star martial sage. Yi Xing used the wind force of the minute subtlety realm to cultivate a middle-grade spirit martial art. It was like an adult learning the knowledge of a child. Of course, the speed was very fast. Especially in this kind of crisis where one's potential was forced out, the effect of Yi Xing's heavenly bat footwork was much better than usual. If Yi Xing's celestial essence and physical strength were almost exhausted, he would retreat to the stairs and the 5 puppets would immediately return to their original positions. After recovering his celestial essence and physical strength, Yi Xing would go up to attack the puppets' guards and continue to cultivate the heavenly bat footwork. In the blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. Yi Xing's heavenly bat footwork had a qualitative breakthrough and reached the perfection realm. Compared to the dark spirit spear art, the heavenly bat footwork took more than half the time. From this, it could be seen that the wind force of the minute subtlety realm was much more useful for the cultivation of the heavenly bat footwork than for the dark spirit spear art. The perfection realm of the heavenly bat footwork was comparable to a small success upper-grade spirit martial art Qigong. Coupled with the wind force of the minute subtlety realm, Yi Xing's speed was even faster than that of ordinary sages. Previously, Yi Xing could withstand the attacks of the 5 puppets' guards. Now, with his speed greatly increased, dodging the attacks of the 5 puppets' guards was even easier. On the 3rd floor, Yi Xing's figure flickered, and the attacks of the 5 puppets' guards all missed. Yi Xing seemed to be at ease under the attacks of the 5 puppets' guards. He simply withdrew the black hole astrology and no longer used the dark world to sense the attacks of the puppets' guards. This undoubtedly increased the difficulty of the battle by a lot. Sure enough, without the advantage of being able to predict the enemy's movements, Yi Xing suddenly felt the pressure suddenly increase. It was much more difficult to dodge the sudden attacks. But even so, Yi Xing could still persist under the joint attacks of the 5 puppets' guards. Yi Xing opened the super brain scan and scanned the puppets' guards in his field of vision. It also achieved the effect of predicting the enemy's movements, so the pressure on him was reduced a lot. However, the attacks coming from behind Yi Xing couldn't be detected by Yi Xing's scan. Therefore, with the super brain scanning mode, the pressure was still greater than in the dark world. At this moment, Yi Xing's movement technique was so fast that he could basically ignore the attacks of the 5 guardian puppets. He lured the 5 guardian puppets to the vicinity of the stairs. Then, his figure suddenly flashed and with a long-distance movement, he instantly appeared in front of the stone platform enveloped by the array formation. Boom! The purple feather spear appeared in Yi Xing's hand. With a thrust of the spear, the light shield of the formation shattered. Yi Xing's hand was as fast as lightning. He reached out and grabbed the pair of blue wings. The 5 guards attacked Yi Xing from behind at the same time. They attacked Yi Xing from 5 different directions. 5 energy swords slashed down, making it almost impossible for him to dodge. However, Yi Xing's current speed was godlike when compared to martial saints and half-step perfected masters. In the nick of time, Yi Xing's body shot out and turned into a phantom. He leapt to the bottom of the hall and dodged all the attacks of the 5 guards. Whoosh 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 whoosh, the 5 guardian puppets reacted extremely quickly. 5 energy swords instantly shot up from below. One of them shot towards Yi Xing while the other 4 sealed off his escape routes. Yi Xing was in the air and had nowhere to borrow strength. But he suddenly shifted to the side and dodged the sure kill attack. He even dodged the blind spot of the other 4 energy swords. The wind force of the Minute Realm allowed one to move irregularly within a small area. There was no need to borrow strength. The opponent's attack could also reach the Minute Realm. Otherwise, they would not be able to catch up with the instantaneous movement of the body. After dodging 2 consecutive attacks, the attacks of the 5 guardian puppets were exhausted and came to an end. Yi Xing, however, took a long breath and did not slow down at all. He turned into a streak of light and flew towards the rear right of the 3rd floor. Yi Xing's original plan was to return to the 2nd floor after obtaining the air transportation spirit tool. However, when he obtained the air transportation spirit tool, a door of light appeared at the rear right of the 3rd floor. It was clear that there was still space behind the door of light. Yi Xing had already obtained such great benefits on the 3rd floor. What kind of treasures would there be on the 3rd floor? Yi Xing naturally wanted to take a look. The attacks of the 5 guardian puppets only paused for a moment before they charged at Yi Xing again. However, Yi Xing directly rushed into the light gate, and the 5 sword auras all slashed at the air. Yi Xing thought that behind the door of light would be a hidden layer of the treasure hall that could not be seen from the outside. However, after he passed through the door of light, he was no longer in the treasure hall. Instead, he was in a cavern hall. This cavern hall had a circumference of 10 zhang. It was unknown which mountain it was located in, but there was only a single tunnel leading to it. Yi Xing activated his ultra-dissociation scan and observed his surroundings. After confirming that there was nothing unusual, he turned his attention to the Supreme-Grade Air Transportation Spirit Tool in his hand. The Supreme-Grade Air Transportation Spirit Tool was forged from green metal. There were patterns of clouds on it. It shone brightly and looked very beautiful. Yi Xing was still a little confused as to how to use this Supreme-Grade Air Transportation Spirit Tool. After thinking for a while, he bit his finger and dripped his blood onto the Supreme-Grade Air Transportation Spirit Tool. A strange feeling suddenly appeared in Yi Xing's heart. He felt as if he and this Supreme-Grade Air Transportation Spirit Tool were connected by flesh and blood. This feeling grew stronger and stronger. Finally, the Supreme-Grade Air Transportation Spirit Tool in his hand disappeared. It actually merged with Yi Xing's body. Some information suddenly appeared in Yi Xing's mind. He knew the name of this pair of wings, Azure Cloud Wings. The feather green gold could be used to bind its owner with a drop of blood, so dripping blood was the fastest refining method. Yi Xing didn't know how to refine the feather green gold and accidentally stumbled upon it. According to the method left behind by Venerable Qing Yun, Yi Xing's heart moved and a pair of wings grew out from Yi Xing's back. It was a pair of azure golden wings, exuding a bright light. When the wings spread out, it was more than 3 feet long. The azure cloud wings was only the size of a palm when he held it in his hand, but after refining it, It was more than 3 feet long. This azure cloud wings was really amazing. There was an extra pair of wings on his back, but Yi Xing didn't feel strange. The wings seemed to be connected to his flesh and blood, just like his hands and feet, a part of his body. The wings could be opened and retracted with just a thought. Thinking that he could fly in the sky at will with the azure cloud wings, Yi Xing's heart was filled with joy. Flying freely in the air was something that only venerables could do. Currently, Yi Xing was only a 6-star martial saint, and he already had such an ability. He was able to do something that even sage martial saints could not do. Of course, he was very happy. The only thing that made Yi Xing feel regretful was that using the azure cloud wings seemed to consume a lot of celestial essence. He hadn't even flown yet. Just by using the azure cloud wings on his back, he could already feel his celestial essence quickly depleting, as if he was in the middle of a battle. The azure cloud wings are too high level for me. Even if I can use it to fly now, I'm afraid I can't fly for too long. Maybe after I become an enlightened master and convert all my celestial essence into astral star, I can support it for a long time. Yi Xing thought in his heart. With a thought, he retracted the azure cloud wings. After resting in the cavern for a while, Yi Xing recovered his celestial essence and physical strength and then left the cavern. There was only one cave in the cavern that led to another place, and there was no exit. Yi Xing could only walk along that cave. The cave was very long. Yi Xing walked for half an hour before he came across another cave. Yi Xing thought about it for a while and decided not to explore the other cave. Instead, he continued to walk forward. After walking for another half an hour, a rumbling sound came from the front. Listening to the sound, it sounded like someone was attacking the walls. The sound was heavy, and Yi Xing could feel the vibrations coming from the walls. Yi Xing quickened his pace and walked forward. The sound grew louder and louder. Finally, he came to a huge underground palace. This underground palace had several caves leading to it. The cave that Yi Xing came from was just one of them. Inside the palace, there were already 6 martial artists attacking an array formation light cover in the deepest part of the palace. Inside the array formation light cover, there was a stone platform with 3 secret books suspended above it. High-grade spiritual martial art, Flame Astral Fist. Middle-grade spiritual martial art, Pine Tree Sword Art. Middle-grade spiritual martial art, Ice Congealing Finger. High-grade spiritual martial arts, for the top 10 sects of the Clear Sky region, were treasures of their sects. Even the 4 northern sects did not have many high-grade spiritual martial arts. Therefore, these 6 martial artists looked very excited. They wanted to break the array formation light cover and get the secret books inside. However, their main goal was obviously the high-grade spiritual martial art, Flame Astral Fist. There were 6 of them, but only 1 Flame Astral Fist. When they broke the array formation light cover, a big battle was unavoidable. Yi Xing's gaze moved away from the martial arts manual and landed on the 6 cultivators. Their cultivations were all very high. There were 4 8-star martial sages and 2 peak 7-star martial sages. They were disciples of the northern 4 sects. Yi Xing did not know the 2 peak 7-star martial saints, but Yi Xing knew the names of the 8-star martial saints of the 4 northern sects. Lei Yun of the Blue Thunder sect. Yang Kuan of the Yin Yang sect. Luo Ying of the Tian Luo sect. Ming Shuang of the Xian Ming sect. 2 men and 2 women. Although they were not young masters, as 8-star martial saints, they were enough to defeat all the disciples of the 6 southern sects except for Yi Xing and young master Watanabe. Just as Yi Xing was sizing up the 6 martial artists, 2 7-star martial saints walked out of another cave on the opposite side. Chapter 298. Yi Xing knew that these 2 7-star martial saints were disciples of the Divine Wind sect. The one in white was called Feng Yu, a late 7-star martial saint. The one in black was called Fang Zhe, an early 7-star martial saint. As one of the disciples of the 6 southern sects, Yi Xing naturally knew the other elite disciples of the 6 southern sects. When Feng Yu and Fang Zhe entered the hall, the first person they saw was Yi Xing. However, Their eyes only stayed on Yixing for a moment before they looked at the 3 martial arts manuals. To be exact, their eyes were locked on the Flaming Dipper Fist. Upper grade spiritual martial arts. Their eyes suddenly lit up and they exclaimed at the same time. Their voices were full of surprise. The Divine Wind sect only had 1 upper grade spiritual martial arts, which was regarded as the treasure of the sect. Even the elders might not be able to learn it. Only the sect leader and the elders who had made great contributions to the sect could learn it. As disciples, Feng Yu and Feng Zhe were naturally not qualified to learn the upper grade spiritual martial arts of the sect. However, if they could obtain an upper grade spiritual martial arts in the Qingyun ancient land and offer it to the sect, they would have the right to learn this upper grade spiritual martial arts and also receive a lot of sect contribution points. Therefore, when they saw the upper grade spiritual martial arts, Feng Yu and Feng Zhe were wild with joy. They rushed toward the Flaming Dipper Fist and attacked the light shield. This Flaming Dipper Fist belongs to my Divine Wind sect. Feng Yu was the eldest disciple of the Aeolus sect. While attacking, he shouted excitedly. In front of the light shield, there were already 6 warriors attacking. However, Feng Yu and Feng Zhe's eyes were attracted by the Flaming Dipper Fist and ignored the 6 warriors. Feng Yu said that the Flaming Dipper Fist belonged to the Divine Wind sect, and he was happy. However, when these words fell into the ears of the disciples of the 4 northern sects, they were not happy. Especially the 8-star martial saint of the Sun Moon sect, Yang Kuan, suddenly snorted. His figure was like a ghost. In an instant, he appeared in front of Feng Yu and slapped Feng Yu's face. Yang Kuan was a late 8-star martial sage. However, the Sun Moon sect had 2 demonic young masters, Young Master Sun Moon and Young Master Great Sun, who had overshadowed his brilliance. Actually, Yang Kuan's talent was also very high, and his strength was also very strong. He was also a genius. Feng Yu was excitedly attacking the light barrier of the array, wanting to snatch the Flaming Dipper Fist. Who would have thought that he would suddenly be attacked? Furthermore, the attacker was an 8-star martial saint. He could not dodge at all. Hastily, Feng Yu raised her hand to block. Yang Kuan's palm drew an arc, instantly bypassing Feng Yu's blocking arm, and with a bang, ruthlessly slapped Feng Yu's face. Yang Kuan's attack was quite heavy. His slap shattered Feng Yu's teeth, causing him to spit out blood and fly towards Yixing. Feng Yu suddenly being attacked gave Feng Zhe a fright. Only now did he realize that the 6 martial artists beside him were actually disciples of the 4 northern sects. They were existences that they could not afford to provoke. While Feng Zhe was greatly shocked, Yang Kuan attacked again, and another slap came towards him. Feng Zhe's strength was lower than Feng Yu's. At this moment, he was greatly shocked. How could he block Yang Kuan's powerful slap? With a crisp sound, Feng Zhe was also sent flying. In the eyes of the 4 northern sects, the disciples of the 6 southern sects were like ants. Yang Kuan did not even bother to speak to them. He directly attacked, sending both Feng Yu and Feng Zhe flying. After sending Feng Zhe flying, Yang Kuan looked proud and said, "Ants of the 6 southern sects dare to have evil thoughts about the Flaming Dipper Fist. Are you qualified? Get out of my way." While speaking, Yang Kuan's eyes glanced condescendingly at Yixing, full of disdain. If it were not for Yixing standing far away and not boasting about wanting the Flaming Dipper Fist, Yang Kuan's slap would have already landed on Yixing's face at this moment. Feng Yu and Feng Zhe both flew in front of Yixing and fell to the ground, rolling at the feet of Yixing. The 2 climbed up, but did not dare to be angry at Yang Kuan. Instead, they apologized. "I didn't know that the senior brothers and sisters of the 4 northern sects were here. We were reckless, please calm down." Any disciple of the 4 northern sects was enough to crush them, especially the disciples of the Sun Moon sect. They had 2 child-level monstrous geniuses and were the most powerful. If they were not blinded by the Flaming Dipper Fist and recognized the 6 disciples of the 4 northern sects, even if they were given 10,000 guts, they would not dare to say such words. Yang Kuan faintly glanced at the 2, but did not pay attention to them. He turned around and continued to attack the light shield. Feng Yu and Feng Zhe both breathed a sigh of relief. The two had already held their heads in their hands and faced a life and death crisis. If Yang Kuan killed them in anger, the Divine Wind sect would absolutely not dare to avenge them from the Sun Moon sect. The two looked at each other with lingering fear. At this time, the two of them saw Yi Xing from the corner of their eyes. A 6-star martial saint was actually standing behind them and saw such an unbearable side of them. The two of them had no backbone in front of Yang Kuan and did not feel the slightest shame. However, when they found that Yi Xing was looking at them from the side, they instantly became furious, as if they had been humiliated. What made the two of them furious was that Yi Xing was a disciple of the enemy camp. Feng Yu suddenly shouted angrily, "What are you looking at? Be careful that this young master will dig out your dog eyes." Yi Xing really did not want to look at these two trash. However, when the two of them flew over and fell at his feet, Yi Xing instinctively looked at them. The two of them had suffered a loss in the hands of Yang Kuan and had been angered, so they acted like cowards. Now, they were venting their anger on Yi Xing, treating Yi Xing as a soft persimmon that they could pinch at will. Yi Xing's gaze turned cold as he looked at the two of them. He said, "My eyes are the eyes of a human. However, I do see two dogs wagging their tails happily after being beaten. These two dogs' eyes are the eyes of a dog." Feng Yu and Feng Zhe were furious. Feng Yu's eyes became cold, and his killing intent soared. He said coldly, "A mere 6-star martial saint dares to talk to us like this, you're courting death. Junior brother Feng, slap his mouth for me." Feng Zhe clenched his fist, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. He shouted, "Trash, there are some people you can't afford to offend." As he spoke, Feng Zhe sent a slap towards Yi Xing. Just now, he had been slapped by Yang Kuan and had nowhere to vent his anger, so he transferred it to Yi Xing. This slap was fast and ruthless. Yi Xing raised his hand and caught Feng Zhe's palm. In Yi Xing's hand, there was a burning star fire from the star fire seed. When it came into contact with Feng Zhe's palm, it immediately emitted a green smoke and a burnt smell. Feng Zhe suddenly let out a scream. He had never expected that a 6-star martial sage would be able to catch his hands so easily. What was even more unexpected was that Yi Xing's palm had such a powerful flame that even his celestial essence could not withstand it. Ignoring Feng Zhe's screams, Yi Xing clenched his other hand and slapped Feng Zhe's face. Feng Zhe's face was slapped hard, and his body was sent flying. However, Feng Zhe's hand was tightly gripped by Yi Xing, and his flying body was pulled back down. This slap left Feng Zhe's mouth full of blood. Broken teeth flew everywhere, and his blood-curdling screams grew louder. Feng Zhe's slap was too late. Yi Xing caught Feng Zhe's palm and then slapped back. In the blink of an eye, Feng Yu, who was on the side, did not expect that Feng Zhe could not even handle a 6-star martial saint and was injured instead. He simply did not have time to react. It was not until Feng Zhe was slapped hard that Feng Yu finally reacted. He glared and shouted angrily, "You dare!" While speaking, he poked at Yi Xing with 2 fingers. The air was torn apart, and a harsh whistling sound could be heard. Middle-grade spirit martial art Wind Extinction Finger. This was the martial art of the Divine Wind sect, Feng Yu's Wind Extinction Finger, which had been cultivated to the small success realm. He furiously attacked with a finger, and his star essence was circulated to the limit. Except for not using astrology, he launched a powerful attack. Yi Xing did not dodge Feng Yu's attack. The coldness in his eyes was even more intense. He grabbed Feng Zhe's palm and threw him. Feng Zhe's body flew up and became Yi Xing's weapon. Feng Zhe's body met Feng Yu's finger attack and fiercely lashed at Feng Yu. Feng Yu was shocked. How could he expect Yi Xing to use Feng Zhe's body as a weapon? He was shocked and quickly withdrew his attack. However, at this critical moment, how could he withdraw his attack? The Wind Extinction Finger fiercely poked Feng Zhe's body, and immediately poked a bloody hole. Chapter 299. Feng Yu's attack on Yi Xing was deadly. Feng Zhe was severely injured and let out a shrill scream. However, at this time, Feng Zhe's body was being wielded by Yi Xing like a weapon. Even though he was attacked by Feng Yu, he still whipped forward fiercely. Boom! Fang Zhe's body collided with Feng Yu's body, causing a loud explosion. Yi Xing's physical body was far better than other martial saints. Coupled with his rich celestial essence, the power of the whip was so terrifying that Feng Yu was immediately sent flying. At this time, Yi Xing's hand that was holding Fang Zhe also loosened, and Fang Zhe flew out. Feng Yu fell more than 10 meters away. As soon as he landed, there was another bang as Fang Zhe smashed into him. The two of them rolled into a ball awkwardly. A terrifying aura emanated from the side of the light shield. Yang Kuan stopped his attack and swept his eyes over Yi Xing and the other two, erupting with a terrifying aura. Yang Kuan's eyes were sharp as he said disdainfully, "I told you 3 ants to get lost. Are you deaf or stupid?" This light shield had a very strong defensive power. Yang Kuan was the first to come here, but he could not break the light shield. Later, disciples of the other 4 northern sects came one after another. Yang Kuan had competitors and his heart was already filled with anger. However, even if there were disciples of the other 4 northern sects, as long as they could break the light shield, Yang Kuan was very confident that with his attainments in Qinggong, he would be able to snatch the secret manual of Flaming Dipper Fist. However, even if the 6 disciples of the 4 northern sects attacked at the same time, they could not break the light shield, which made Yang Kuan more and more depressed. However, he believed that with 4 8-star martial saints and 2 peak 7-star martial saints, there would be a time when they could break through the light shield. However, now was the time when he was feeling depressed. He wanted to find a punching bag to vent his anger. Feng Yu and Fang Zigong had rushed forward and naturally ignited his anger. He had slapped them back. Although Yang Kuan felt a little better in his heart, he was not happy yet. The 3 ants of the southern 6 sects were fighting here, and he felt that they were an eyesore, so he pointed his spear at them. Feng Yu's injuries were not serious. She helped the heavily injured Fang Zhe up and glared fiercely at Yi Xing. However, she did not dare to show any dissatisfaction towards Yang Kuan. The two of them quickly left the palace. Yang Kuan looked at Yi Xing, who was standing still. The baleful aura on his face grew heavier as he coldly said, "You're not going to scram?" Yi Xing looked at Yang Kuan, and his gaze showed no signs of weakness as he said, "There's no such thing as scram in my life. Why don't you show me how to scram so that I can learn from you?" Yang Kuan's eyes suddenly emitted 2 rays of light, as if there were 2 balls of fire burning in his eyes. The other 5 warriors who were attacking the light shield stopped at this moment and looked at Yi Xing with surprise. This was the first time they saw Yi Xing in their eyes. They sized him up. Obviously, they did not expect that a 6-star martial sage would dare to speak like this in front of Yang Kuan. Regardless of Yang Kuan's identity as a disciple of the Sun Moon sect, as an 8-star martial sage, he was an existence that the disciples of the southern 6 sects needed to look up to. What's more, Yang Kuan was a late 8-star martial sage. Among the 4 8-star martial sages present, Yang Kuan's cultivation was the highest. Yang Kuan twisted his neck, and the sound of bones cracking rang out. With a ferocious look in his eyes, he walked step by step towards Yi Xing. The disciples of the southern 6 sects, except for young Master Watanabe, are all ants, trash, and straw dogs in my eyes. No disciple of the southern 6 sects has ever dared to speak like this in front of me, Yang Kuan. Do you think that you can be arrogant in front of me, Yang Kuan, just because you defeated the 2 trash of the Divine Wind sect? It's simply presumptuous. And, since you don't know what it means to get lost, then today I'll teach you what it means to get lost. As Yang Kuan spoke, he slowly walked closer to Yi Xing. When he finished his last sentence, his aura had accumulated to the extreme, and he threw a punch at Yi Xing middle-grade spiritual martial art, Scorching Sun Divine Fist. This punch was incomparably bright, like the scorching sun in the sky. It was dazzling and it contained an extremely hot and strong power. The 8-star martial sage struck out with a thunderous blow. Yang Kuan wanted to heavily injure Yi Xing with this punch and send Yi Xing flying. Then he would fall to the ground and roll continuously. You don't know what's good for you. Ming Shuang, an 8-star martial sage disciple of the Dark Underworld sect, gently pouted. The Dark Underworld sect had a good relationship with the Sun Moon sect, and Ming Shuang had a good personal relationship with Yang Kuan. Naturally, she was happy to see Yixing being sent flying by Yang Kuan with one punch. Moreover, Ming Shuang also thought so. A 6-star martial sage would definitely not be able to block Yang Kuan's punch. However, as soon as she finished her disdainful words, a look of surprise flashed in her eyes. Yixing faced Yang Kuan's fist that was like the scorching sun. He did not dodge, nor did he take half a step back. Instead, a long spear suddenly appeared in his hand. The purple feather spear instantly burst out with a dark spear light, and it pierced toward the scorching sun fist in front of it. It was like a needle against an awl. Although the scorching sun fist was dazzling, it could not disperse the darkness that burst out from the purple feather spear. Not only was Ming Shuang shocked, but Lei Yun, Luo Ying, and the other 2 cultivators were also shocked at the same time. Yixing was actually going to fight Yang Kuan head-on. Come on, huh? Yang Kuan grinned and pushed his celestial essence, increasing the power of his punch by a few notches. Boom! As Yang Kuan sneered, the scorching sun fist and the dark spear light collided, and there was a loud explosion. The violent airflow exploded, setting off a terrifying airwave that surged in all directions. Yixing held his spear and pierced forward, not taking half a step back. However, Yang Kuan's laughter suddenly stopped, and a look of horror flashed in his eyes. His body shook violently as if it had been hit by a fierce horse, and he could not help but step back. Dong 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 dong. Yang Kuan took 5 steps back before he could stabilize his body, and there was a look of disbelief in his eyes. He was an 8-star martial saint, but in a head-on battle he was pushed back by a 6-star martial saint. The other 5 cultivators were also shocked. A 6-star martial saint had the upper hand against an 8-star martial saint. This ability to challenge people of a higher level was comparable to the Yin Yang Young Master. They did not know that Yixing's middle spiritual martial art, Dark Spirit Spear technique, had reached the perfection stage. Its power was comparable to an upper spiritual martial art at the initial success stage. Even if his cultivation was not high, and the strength of his star essence could not be compared to an 8-star martial saint's, with the perfection stage of the Dark Spirit Spear technique, he could defeat an 8-star martial saint. Just now, Yixing had casually stabbed with his spear. If he had used his full strength, Yang Kuan would have been seriously injured or even killed. Yixing pushed Yang Kuan back with his spear. He took a step forward, and his body instantly turned into a phantom as he rushed forward. Yixing held the purple feather spear with both hands and smashed down from above. It was as if he was not holding a spear, but a stick. There was no such move in the Dark Spirit Spear technique. However, with the perfection stage of the spear technique, Yixing was no longer limited to moves. His spear contained a terrifying power. Yixing's spear smashed down directly, fast and ruthless. Almost as soon as Yang Kuan stabilized his body, Yixing's spear had already smashed down on his head. With such speed, even Yang Kuan, an 8-star martial saint, could not keep up with the rhythm. He could only hurriedly clench his fists and cross his forearms to block. Boom! The spear shaft smashed into Yang Kuan's forearms. His celestial essence defense instantly exploded, and his clothes burst into pieces. The spear shaft directly collided with his skin. At this moment, Yang Kuan felt a sharp pain in his arms. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on him from above. Plop! Yang Kuan could not bear the force of the spear. His knees sank and he knelt on the ground, creating 2 pits. Although most of the force was transmitted to the ground during this kneeling, Yang Kuan's body still suffered a lot of shock. His internal organs were overturned, and he immediately spat out blood. Yixing held the purple feather spear with both hands and pressed down, making it difficult for Yang Kuan to move. He said, "Didn't you want to teach me how to roll? Why are you teaching me how to kneel?" Looking at the scene in front of them, the other 5 cultivators were stunned. This 6-star martial saint was so powerful. 2 spears and Yang Kuan was forced to kneel? Someone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. They no longer dared to look down on this 6-star martial saint in front of them. How is this a soft persimmon? This was simply an evil star. Ah! You are courting death. Yang Kun flew into a rage out of humiliation. With a roar, starlight suddenly rushed out from between his eyebrows, turning into a flaming star in the sky. Chapter 300. Yang Kun used the star aspect, the flame aspect. In an instant, the endless power of flames fell, and Yang Kun's strength soared. With a roar, his body rose up and pushed away the purple feather spear above him. Scorching sun burns the sky. Yang Kun's star essence was operated to the limit, and the momentum of fire condensed into his fist as he launched a powerful blow at Yixing. Yang Kun's strength erupted. Even a peak 8-star martial sage would not dare to underestimate him. They would have to go all out to compete. Looking at the dazzling fist light that was like a scorching sun, Lei Yun, Luo Ying, and the other 5 cultivators retreated to avoid being hit by the power of this fist. Moreover, the 5 of them were horrified. If Yang Kun's strength erupted to the limit, would he tear down this palace? In the face of Yang Kun's powerful blow, Yixing's expression was still calm. His posture was like a mountain, and he did not retreat half a step. At the same time, the star essence in his body circulated, and the purple feather spear burst out with a dark spear light. Yixing had used the unique skill of the Dark Spirit Spear art, Dark Spirit Spear. A huge spear shadow stabbed forward, bringing with it endless darkness. The dazzling fist light that was like a scorching sun could not dispel the darkness at all. Instead, the darkness drowned the light, and the momentum was reversed in an instant. The darkness brought by the spear was like a giant beast opening its bloody mouth, swallowing all the light in front of it. Boom! With a loud explosion, the entire palace paused. A terrifying blast of air exploded, rolling in all directions in an instant, covering the entire space in the palace. Even if Lei Yun, Luo Ying, and the other 5 had retreated far enough, they were still hit by the surging blast of air. It was like a wave, and its power was very strong. In the explosion, the dazzling fist light was completely swallowed by the darkness. The darkness shrouded everything. Vaguely, they could see Yang Kun's figure suddenly shooting backward. Bang! The darkness dissipated in an instant, and with another explosion, Yang Kun slammed into the light shield of the array and bounced back. He fell to the ground and rolled for more than 10 meters before coming to a stop. Blood spurted out from his mouth, and his face was covered in bruises and bruises. He was in a very sorry state. Yixing put away the purple feather spear, coldly looked at Yang Kun and said, So this is how you roll. Not bad, your rolling is very accurate. But it's a pity. I don't have the talent in this area, so I can't learn it. Lei Yun and the other 4 martial artists looked at each other, dumbfounded. Not only was this guy's strength terrifying, even his mouth was so sharp. Yang Kun crawled up from the ground. His eyes were filled with resentment, but he didn't dare to attack Yixing again. How dare you? Do you know which sect I'm from? My Sun Moon sect has 2 young master-level geniuses, and they can crush you in no time. Yixing said disdainfully, if you can't do it, then you'll look for your senior brother. If your senior brother can't do it, then you'll look for your daddy and mommy, and then your grandpa and grandma. Little brat. Yang Kun's face instantly flushed red, like a pig's liver. He roared in a low voice, What did you say? He was already 24 years old, and Yixing looked obviously much younger. He looked like he was 17 or 18 years old. But he was called a little brat by Yixing with disdain. He felt extremely humiliated. Yixing shrugged and said, You're trash. You can't beat others, so you start looking for this and that. If you're not a little brat, then what are you? Yang Kun clenched his fists tightly, making creaking sounds. He wanted to immediately rush up and beat Yixing until his face was bruised and swollen. He wanted to beat Yixing into a cripple to prove himself. Unfortunately, he only dared to have this thought, and didn't dare to make a move. He was very clear that if he dared to make a move, the one with a bruised and swollen face wouldn't be Yixing, and the one who would be beaten into a cripple wouldn't be Yixing. It would be him, Yang Kun. Yang Kun forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and said, I have my senior brothers looking for me. This is my advantage as a disciple of the Sun Moon sect. You're just a disciple of a trash sect. You won't be able to find me even if you want to. I'll let you be arrogant now. You better pray that you don't run into my Sun Moon sect's eldest senior brother or second senior brother in the future. Otherwise, you'll suffer. The corners of Yi Xing's mouth curled up. Others might be afraid of the Yin Yang Young Master and the Great Sun Young Master, but he, Yi Xing, wasn't afraid. Yi Xing treated Yang Kuan like air. He no longer paid any attention to him and walked towards the other 5 cultivators. Among these 5, 3 were 8-star martial saints and 2 were peak 7-star martial saints. When they saw Yi Xing approach, they instinctively felt a sense of pressure in their hearts. Yi Xing stopped in front of the 5 of them and said, "Although I came here last, I have a way to break the light shield. I'll also join you. After breaking the light shield, we'll fight for the secret manual using our own methods. How about it?" The eyes of the 5 cultivators lit up. Yi Xing had a way to break the light shield. This was naturally the most suitable choice. Moreover, Yi Xing didn't want to take the secret manual of the Flaming Dipper Fist for himself just because he broke the light shield. Instead, he wanted everyone to fight for it with their own methods. Of course, the 5 of them had no reason to refuse and nodded their heads. Even a 9-star martial saint would find it hard to break the light shield here. If they kept attacking it, they might have to attack for a few days before they had any hope of breaking it. However, Yi Xing had obtained the knowledge of formations from Honorable Qin Yun. Moreover, the Clear Cloud Ancient Land was created by Honorable Qin Yun. Yi Xing was very familiar with the formations of the Clear Cloud Ancient Land. When he saw the light shield, he knew where the weak point of the light shield was. He could easily break it with his own strength. Yi Xing came to the front of the light shield, stretched out his palm, and pressed it on the light shield. Circulating the celestial essence in his body, he spat it out from his palm and slowly seeped into the light shield. Yi Xing had a good understanding of the array patterns in the light shield. His celestial essence slowly seeped into the various positions, shifting the position of the array patterns inside. The same array pattern, if placed in different positions, would have different effects. As Yi Xing continued to adjust the array patterns, the defensive power of the light shield became weaker and weaker. Imperceptibly, Yi Xing was lowering the level of this array formation. Everyone's array formations were different. In most cases, it was difficult for outsiders to change the array formations arranged by an array formation master. However, Yi Xing had Honorable Qin Yun's knowledge of formations in his mind. He had a good understanding of the array formations of the Clear Cloud Ancient Land. After half a quarter of an hour, Yi Xing moved his hand away. "How is it? Why hasn't it been opened yet?" Lei Yun asked immediately. Even in the northern 4 sects, there were very few upper-grade spiritual martial artists. Whether it was Lei Yun, Luo Ying, or Ming Shuang, they all wanted the Flaming Dipper Fist manual. Yi Xing glanced at the people in the hall. The 5 cultivators looked at him with anticipation. In the distance, Yang Kuan did not leave. Instead, he leaned against the wall and stood there, waiting for Yi Xing to break the array formation's light shield. Yi Xing said, "The defensive power of the light shield has been reduced. Now we can attack and break it in an instant. After breaking it, we will rely on our own means. Whoever gets the Flaming Dipper Fist manual first will get it." "Then what are we waiting for?" Lei Yun shouted and rushed towards the light shield of the formation. With a palm strike, the sound of thunder could be heard. Green Thunder Sect's middle-grade spiritual martial art, Rushing Thunder Palm. At the same time, the other 4 warriors also attacked the light shield almost at the same time. Bang! The light shield was like a mirror and instantly shattered. Bush, bush, bush. Lei Yun, Luo Ying, and Ming Shuang, the 3 8-star martial saints, instantly rushed towards the upper-grade spiritual martial art Flaming Dipper Fist manual. As for the 2 7-star martial saints, they knew that they did not have the chance to snatch the upper-grade spiritual martial art. Each of them rushed towards a middle-grade spiritual martial art manual. Heavenly Bat Steps. Yi Xing took a step forward. With the perfection stage of the Heavenly Bat Steps, his speed was pushed to the limit. He also integrated the wind force of the micro-realm. Within a small area, Yi Xing's speed was as if he had teleported. There wasn't even an afterimage as he appeared beside the Flaming Dipper Fist manual. He reached out his hand and grabbed it. When Lei Yun, Luo Ying and Ming Shuang rushed over, the Flaming Dipper Fist manual had already been stored in Yi Xing's storage ring. In terms of speed, even a perfected person who had just entered the astral realm might not be able to compete with Yi Xing. These 8-star martial saints naturally could not snatch it from him. The gazes of the 3 8-star martial saints locked onto Yi Xing. There should be 4 of them. There was also Yang Kuan in the distance. Obviously, they had not expected that Yi Xing was not only so powerful, but his speed was also shockingly fast. The Flaming Dipper Fist was an upper-grade spiritual martial art. To the 4 northern sects, it was a very precious treasure. Now, each of the 4 northern sects had an 8-star martial saint disciple here. However, the Flaming Dipper Fist manual had been snatched by a disciple of the 6 southern sects. Chapter 301. The 2 middle spiritual martial arts manuals were snatched by the 2 7-star martial saints. The palace instantly quieted down. After Yi Xing had obtained the Flaming Aura Fist, he had become the target of everyone. Everyone's eyes were locked on him. Facing everyone's unwilling gazes, Yi Xing's expression was normal. He smiled faintly. "I'm sorry, everyone. The Flaming Aura Fist manual is mine. Goodbye." After saying this, Yi Xing walked out of the palace and prepared to leave. "Wait!" A voice sounded. As soon as the voice sounded, Ming Shuang, a disciple of the mysterious underworld sect, had already blocked in front of Yi Xing. "What's the matter?" Yi Xing glanced at Ming Shuang. She was a beautiful girl with a cold and arrogant expression. However, Yi Xing knew that she was close to Yang Kuan. Ming Shuang's cold and arrogant gaze landed on Yi Xing. She raised her head slightly and said, "You are not qualified to take the Flaming Aura Fist manual." Yi Xing smiled faintly and said, If I'm not qualified, then are you qualified?" Ming Shuang nodded and said with a natural tone, "I am qualified. Senior brother Yang Kuan is qualified. Even Lei Yun and Luo Ying, who are my enemies, are qualified. Because we are disciples of the northern 4 sects, any one of us can take the Flaming Aura Fist manual. Only you, a disciple of the southern 6 sects, cannot take it." A trace of coldness appeared on Yi Xing's face. Ming Shuang did not care about Yi Xing's reaction and continued, "With your status, you are only qualified to take the middle spiritual martial arts manual. Our northern 4 sects all have young masters who can easily crush you. If you take the Flaming Aura Fist manual, you are seeking your own death. I will use the Pine Sword Technique manual to exchange with you. Take out the Flaming Aura Fist manual. This is for your own good." As she spoke, Ming Shuang waved at a 7-star martial saint. He was also a disciple of the mysterious underworld sect. He had just taken the Pine Sword Technique manual. The other 7-star martial saint was a disciple of the Blue Thunder sect who had snatched the Ice Condensing Finger manual. The 7-star martial sage of the Profound Underworld sect walked over with the Pine Green Sword Technique manual and handed it to Ming Shuang. Ming Shuang waved the secret manual in her hand and prepared to throw it at Yi Xing. Yi Xing raised his hand and stopped Ming Shuang. Looking at this arrogant woman, Yi Xing's eyes were filled with disgust. Ming Shuang frowned slightly and said with an indescribable expression, "Me exchanging the middle-grade spiritual martial technique with you is a gift to you. If my senior brother Yin Fan was here, you would not get anything and would have to kneel down and offer the Flame Gang Fist with both hands. Could it be, you want to reject this gift?" The senior brother Yin Fan that Ming Shuang spoke of was naturally the eldest disciple of the Profound Underworld sect, one of the 6 great young masters, young master Yin Ming. "Gift?" Yi Xing snorted coldly. The corner of his eyes twitched as he said, "I cannot accept such a gift from you. I have something to say to you." Ming Shuang raised her spirits. The other warriors in the hall also pricked up their ears, wanting to hear what Yi Xing had to say. Yi Xing's expression turned serious as he raised his voice and shouted, "Bitch, get out of my sight as far as you can think." Ming Shuang's cold and arrogant face instantly revealed a furious expression. Her shoulders trembled in anger. Her face was as cold as frost as she stared at Yixing like a poisonous snake. With a bone-chilling coldness, she said, "You don't know what's good for you. Do you think you can walk out of this hall after taking the Flame Gang Fist manual?" Yixing glanced around and said with a raised expression, "Is that so? Who dares to stop me? You are very powerful. We are not your match in a one-on-one fight. But, if we team up, what can you do?" Ming Shuang glanced at Yixing with disdain and looked at the other warriors. "Everyone, are you going to watch a disciple of the 6 southern sects take away the Flame Gang Fist manual? If so, we will lose the face of the 4 northern sects. I, Yang Kuan, will be the first to disagree." As soon as Ming Shuang finished speaking, Yang Kuan's figure flashed and came to Ming Shuang's side. The Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect had a close relationship. Ming Shuang and Yang Kuan also had a good personal relationship. Naturally, the two would team up. Yixing glanced coldly at Ming Shuang and Yang Kuan, then turned to look at Lei Yun and Luo Ying. He heard that the Blue Thunder sect, the Celestial Net sect, the Sun Moon sect, and the mysterious underworld sect had a bad relationship. He wanted to see if the Blue Thunder sect and the Celestial Net sect would join Ming Shuang and Yang Kuan in suppressing him, a disciple of the 6 southern sects. Yixing had obviously overestimated the bad relationship between the northern 4 sects. In less than 3 breaths, Lei Yun, a disciple of the Blue Thunder sect, stood out and said, "Lei Yun will not agree either." As soon as he finished speaking, Lei Yun came to Ming Shuang's side, followed by the 7-star martial saint disciple of the Blue Thunder sect. Ming Shuang looked at Luo Ying and said, "Luo Ying, this matter concerns the reputation of the 4 northern sects. Won't you do something?" Luo Ying shook her head and said, "We just agreed that it belongs to whoever gets it first. Since he got it first, we have to follow the agreement." The secret manual of the Flaming Gang Fist belongs to him. I don't think this will affect the reputation of the 4 northern sects. On the contrary, if we rely on our numbers to snatch something from a disciple of the 6 southern sects, it will really damage the reputation of the 4 northern sects. Our Celestial Net sect will not do such a thing. Ridiculous, humph. Ming Shuang stared coldly at Luo Ying and said, "Without a burden like you, the 5 of us will be enough. The secret manual of the Flaming Gang Fist will not belong to your Celestial Net sect. Our Celestial Net sect does not need people like you who bully others and snatch their treasures," Luo Ying said faintly. She then left the place. Different people had different thoughts and personalities. Although there were no laws in the Star Continent, and the dark side of human nature could not be effectively suppressed, most of the people were treacherous and shameless. However, there was no lack of upright people. The remaining people did not mind Luo Ying's departure. In their opinion, no matter how powerful Yixing was, he would not be able to defeat 3 8-star martial sages. Moreover, there were 2 peak 7-star martial sages helping him. They were not to be trifled with. How will the secret manual of the Flaming Gang Fist be distributed after we kill this guy? Lei Yun asked. Before he had snatched the secret manual of the Flaming Gang Fist from Yixing, he was already concerned about the distribution of the secret manual. Ming Shuang said, "After killing him, the secret manual of the Flaming Gang Fist will belong to whoever gets his storage ring first. The things in the storage ring will be divided among the other 2. Yang Kuan nodded and said, "I agree." Lei Yun nodded and said, "Then it's settled. However, Luo Ying has already left. If you turn against me when the time comes, I won't be your opponent. You have to swear on your martial heart to abide by the agreement." "Idiots, are you done yet?" Yixing looked at the 5 people in front of him and could not bear it anymore. He said, "You are a bunch of trash. You can't even touch the secret manual of the Flaming Gang Fist, and you still have the face to discuss how to distribute it." These 3 idiots thought that they could defeat Yixing if they worked together. Little did they know that in Yixing's eyes, the 3 of them were complete trash. Yixing did not care about them at all. Yixing could not be bothered to listen to their long-winded words. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed as he executed the Heavenly Bat movement technique and rushed toward Ming Shuang. This bitch was just asking for it. Originally, there was nothing wrong, but she just had to make trouble out of nothing. Although she did not come out to stop him, Yang Kuan and Lei Yun might come out. However, since she was the one who started it, the first person Yi Xing dealt with would be her. As Yi Xing made his move, Ming Shuang, Yang Kuan, and Lei Yun did not have anything to argue about. They all attacked Yi Xing, and the other two 7-star martial saints were no exception. Sky Frost Sword Technique, Blazing Sun Divine Fist, Rushing Thunder Palm. Ming Shuang, Yang Kuan, and Lei Yun used their best skills as soon as they attacked. They were all middle-grade spirit martial arts, and their attainments were close to great accomplishment. The power of the 3 8-star martial saints working together was not to be underestimated. Moreover, the attacks of the 2 peak 7-star martial saints followed closely behind. Yi Xing was not willing to fight them head-on. Whoosh, Yi Xing's figure was as fast as flowing light. In an instant, he changed his position, and the attacks of the 5 people all missed. Where did he go? Ming Shuang exclaimed. Yi Xing's speed was too fast. He was so fast that she did not know where Yi Xing had dodged to and where he was. As Ming Shuang exclaimed, Yang Kuan also exclaimed, "Be careful behind you." Yi Xing had actually appeared behind Ming Shuang without anyone noticing. On the 3rd floor of the treasure hall, Yi Xing had easily dealt with the attacks of 5 half-step perfected person puppet guards. Now, the 5 people he was facing were nothing compared to half-step perfected person. Yi Xing weaved through their attacks as if he was in an unstoppable state. Qingming Festival, I will go to the lighthouse to pay my respects to the dead. Tomorrow, I will return to Shenyang and continue to update. My novel Supreme Archer God will have more new content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% chance of a lucky draw for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the top right to add friend. Search for the public account, Kdred, and follow. Hurry up! Chapter 302. Yi Xing's speed was so fast that he appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Hence, Ming Shuang did not notice him when he appeared behind her. Hearing Yang Kuan's shout, Ming Shuang's heart trembled. She felt a chill run down her spine. Before Ming Shuang could react, Yi Xing's palm came from behind and slapped Ming Shuang's ear. Bang! Ming Shuang was instantly sent flying. Her ear was covered in blood. Clearly, it had been broken by this slap. There was an explosion in her ear, and then she could not hear anything. She had temporarily lost her hearing. Yi Xing hated this bitch to the extreme. Although Ming Shuang was very beautiful, Yi Xing did not have any intention of showing mercy to her. This slap was very solid. Ming Shuang was sent flying. She crashed into the wall with a loud bang. She fell to the ground and rolled for 10 meters. Her mind was blank. When he fought with Yang Kuan earlier, Yi Xing did not move. He only revealed a little of his strength. Now Yi Xing used his movement technique. With his extremely fast speed, fighting an 8-star martial saint was like playing a game. Not to mention 3 8-star martial saints, even 10 8-star martial saints would not be able to touch Yi Xing's clothes. Yi Xing suddenly appeared behind Ming Shuang and sent her flying with a slap. This deeply shocked the other 4 cultivators. Their expressions changed greatly. Lei Yun and Yang Kuan's hearts jumped. Only now did they understand that Yi Xing was much more terrifying than they had expected. At this moment, Yi Xing did not give his opponent any time to react. Once he attacked, his power was like thunder and lightning. In a flash, he rushed towards Yang Kuan. Yang Kuan was shocked. He quickly retreated. At the same time, he used his defensive technique to defend with all his strength. Yi Xing was as fast as a phantom, disappearing in a flash. Yang Kuan lost track of Yi Xing in an instant. He didn't know where to defend, so he could only defend from all directions. If it was just defending from one direction, Yi Xing would have had some trouble breaking through the other party's defenses. But now that Yang Kuan had spread his celestial essence in all directions, how could he stop Yi Xing? Yi Xing instantly appeared at the weakest point of Yang Kuan's defense. His hand was as fast as lightning as he ruthlessly struck out with his palm. The celestial essence instantly collapsed, and Yi Xing's palm turned into a seal that instantly covered Yang Kuan's face. Bang! Just like Ming Shuang, Yang Kuan was also sent flying by Yi Xing's slap, his face covered in blood. Lei Yunhun was frightened out of his wits. He looked at Yi Xing and his heart thumped rapidly. He quickly ran out of the hall and shouted, "We will mind our own business and have nothing to do with each other." Unrelated? When you attacked just now, you didn't say that we were unrelated, Yi Xing said. As he spoke, his body turned into a stream of light and caught up with Lei Yunhun. Lei Yunhun heard the sound of the wind behind him and immediately turned around to shoot out 2 palm strikes. Bang! Thunder rumbled and electric arcs flashed. Lei Yunhuan's thunder-rushing palm had amazing power. In terms of cultivation, he was slightly inferior to Yang Kuan. But in terms of strength, he was stronger than Yang Kuan. "Then die for me." As Lei Yunhun shot out his palm, he roared, "This father is the strongest among the 4 of you." However, as soon as his voice fell, his expression suddenly changed. He saw that the 2 thunder-rushing palm strikes he shot out had both hit empty air. Lei Yunhun was shocked. He had clearly determined Yi Xing's position by listening to the wind. How could his attack miss? Yi Xing's speed was faster than Lei Yunhun had imagined. Just as Lei Yunhuan's thunder-rushing palm strikes ran out, Yi Xing instantly appeared in front of Lei Yunhun and slapped out. This palm strike was fast to the extreme. Lei Yun desperately retreated backward and waved his hand to block the attack. However, he couldn't dodge the attack, nor could he block it. Bang! A bloody handprint appeared on Lei Yunhuan's face as he was also sent flying by Yi Xing's slap. At this moment, Yi Xing made his move. Although he did not use the Dark Spirit spear art, he used his hand as a spear. When he shot out his palm, it was combined with the spear's momentum. Although it was not as powerful as a spirit weapon treasure spear, it was still very terrifying. Ming Shuang, Yang Kuan, and Lei Yunhun were all hit in the head by Yi Xing's palm. Their brains were shaken and completely blank. They fell to the ground and could not get up. The other 2 7-star martial saints looked at each other at this moment. Their legs were trembling and they did not dare to fight or escape. They looked at Yi Xing with fear and disbelief. The scene in front of them was indeed too unbelievable. Yi Xing was beating up an 8-star martial saint like he was swatting flies. Every slap was accurate, and every slap was enough to knock down an 8-star martial saint. Even a demonic genius with the strength of a peak 8-star martial saint would not be able to send an 8-star martial saint flying with a slap. Put. Yi Xing was too lazy to talk to the 2 of them. He rushed up and slapped the 2 7-star martial saints, sending them flying. They also fell to the ground and could not get up. "A bunch of trash," Yi Xing said coldly and left the hall. The 5 of them wanted Yi Xing's life. Yi Xing only gave each of them a slap, which was enough. If Luo Ying of the Tian Luo sect, Feng Yu and Fang Zhe of the Divine Wind sect did not know that Yi Xing was with these people, the 5 of them would not have just been slapped. Yi Xing's principle was very simple. He would treat others the same way they treated him. If anyone wanted his life, he would repay it back. It was a pity that these were the disciples of the 4 northern sects. Yi Xing could not take their lives because the Falling Star sect was still unable to compete with the 4 northern sects. Not long after leaving the hall, Yi Xing found a formation light door. He left the chaotic space and returned to the normal area of the Green Cloud ancient land. Counting the days, he had been in the chaotic space for 15 days since he entered Cumulus Valley. Yi Xing had spent 5 days on the journey, so it had been 20 days since he entered Qingyun ancient land. In these 20 days, Yi Xing did not go to many places, but his harvest was incredible. Compared to the harvest in the treasure hall, the upper-grade spiritual martial skill, Flame Aura Fist, could only be regarded as trash. The supreme-grade spiritual martial skill, Eye of Green Cloud, was something that even the superior 1-star sects wanted. It was the only one in the Green Cloud region and was more precious than the 10 sects in the Green Cloud region. The supreme-grade flying spiritual artifact, the Azure Cloud Wings, was truly a priceless treasure. It could be upgraded and had unlimited potential. As long as there were enough Azure Gold materials to absorb, it could become an immortal artifact in the future. Such a treasure would make even supremacies jealous. The wings of Azure Cloud, the eyes of Azure Cloud, and the secret manual of the Fire Dipper Fist. Yi Xing had no regrets in this trip to the Azure Cloud ancient land, as the treasures he had obtained had far exceeded his expectations. Moreover, Yi Xing's harvest was not only that. He had reached the complete realm for both the Dark Spirit Spear skill and the Sky Bat Steps. This was also a great harvest. If it were not for the puppet guard in the treasure hall, Yi Xing would not have been able to reach the complete realm in such a short time. I wonder how the disciples of the Falling Stars sect and the Spiritual Moon sect are doing. Did they get anything? Did they encounter any danger? Yi Xing wandered aimlessly in the Green Cloud ancient land and thought of the disciples of the Falling Stars sect and the Spiritual Moon sect. He thought that he would be able to come out quickly after entering the Cumulus Valley. He did not expect to be in there for half a month. When he came out, he was no longer in the Cumulus Valley. Yi Xing climbed to the top of a tall mountain and used the Eye of Green Cloud to look into the distance. With Yi Xing's eyesight, he could see snakes, insects, rats, and ants 40 miles away. The range of his eyesight was 10 times that of other martial sages. According to the mountain peaks and the terrain, Yi Xing could tell that the Cumulus Valley should be very far away from here. The map that Zi Shanho had given him did not mention this place. Zi Shanho should not have been here before. Besides the map that Zi Shanho had given to him, Yi Xing also had the map of the Green Cloud ancient land that the sect had given him. Although the Green Cloud ancient land was huge and there were many areas that had not been explored, the disciples of the Falling Stars sect had been there for generations and they had roughly figured out the outline of the Green Cloud ancient land. Yi Xing took out the map of the Green Cloud ancient land and compared it with the mountain peaks and the terrain. Soon, he was sure that he was not far from the central area of the Green Cloud ancient land. In the central area of the Green Cloud ancient land, there was a Green Cloud Palace. It was a palace that stored countless treasures. For hundreds of years, the disciples of various sects had obtained treasures from the Green Cloud Palace. Yi Xing's eyes lit up. He wanted to take a look at the Green Cloud Palace. Even though he had acquired a great fortune from the Qingyun ancient land, it did not stop Yi Xing from wanting to acquire more treasures. From tomorrow onwards, I only need 3 more votes to surpass 200 monthly votes. Please give me 3 more monthly votes. My novel Supreme Archer God will have more new content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% chance of a lucky draw for everyone. Open WeChat now and click on the plus sign on the top right to add friend. Search for the public account, Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up! Chapter 303. Green Cloud Palace, Yama Fire Region. Yi Xing's gaze moved across the map of Green Cloud Palace and finally fixed on the northernmost region. In the northern part of Green Cloud ancient land, there was a sea of fire. The flames there were extremely terrifying. Even a 9-star martial saint would die if they entered. Even an enlightened being would not be able to stay for long. Therefore, this fire region was called the Yama Fire Region. It meant that the flames there were the flames of hell. Anyone who entered would definitely meet the King of Hell. The Yama Fire Region is listed as a forbidden area by the top 10 sections. No one has explored it since the beginning. There might be treasures inside. My black hole astrological form can devour the essence of the flames. Moreover, I have the flame astrological form and the star fire seed. Maybe I can try my luck in the Yama Fire Region. Yi Xing thought to himself. He decided to go to Green Cloud Palace first before going to the Yama Fire Region. If there was time after that, he would make plans. In the information left behind by Venerable Qin Yun in the Green Cloud Wings, there was information about the origin of the Green Cloud ancient land. The Yama Fire Region had existed for even longer than the Green Cloud ancient land. Before Venerable Qin Yun established the Green Cloud ancient land, the Yama Fire Region had already existed. Moreover, the Yama Fire Region was not called the Yama Fire Region, but the Falling Stars Flame Region. Due to the fierce flames in the Falling Stars Flame Region, it was unfavorable to the Green Cloud sect. Therefore, when Venerable Green Cloud established Green Cloud Ancient Land, he also surrounded the Falling Stars Flame region. As time went by, very few people knew the true name of the flame field of the Falling Stars. After the fall of the Azure Cloud sect, the top 10 sects had entered the Azure Cloud Ancient Land and named the flame field of the Falling Stars Yenluo Fire Field. Obviously, the Yama Fire region was the same as the Sea of Fire in the Falling Stars' secret territory. It was also formed by the Fall of Stars. Yi Xing's Star Fire Seed was related to the Fall of Stars. This was also the main reason why Yi Xing wanted to explore the Yama Fire region. 2 days later, Yi Xing arrived at the foot of a majestic mountain. This peak was called Fire Cloud Peak. The mountain was bare, without a single plant or tree. There was only heat, as well as the flame lava that sprayed out from the peak of the mountain all year round. This was an active volcano. It was also one of the forbidden areas in the Azure Cloud Ancient Land. This was because a group of powerful demonic beasts lived there, the Fire Cloud Lions. The Fire Cloud Lion was a Class 3 demonic beast when it matured, which was equivalent to a Taoist who had just entered the astral star realm. Among the younger generation disciples of the top 10 sects of the Green Cloud region who entered the Green Cloud Ancient Land, most of them were 8-star martial saints with the highest cultivation. There were very few 9-star martial saints. As for enlightened beings of the astral realm, it was rare to see one in 500 years. There was more than one Fire Cloud Lion in the Fire Cloud Peak. It was a pride of lions. The total number of Fire Cloud Lions was between 20 to 30. There were more than 10 adult Fire Cloud Lions. Even when the younger enlightened beings entered the Azure Cloud Ancient Land, they did not dare to get close to the Fire Cloud Peak. Naturally, it was regarded as a forbidden area by the top 10 sections. Yi Xing was not afraid of the Fire Cloud Lions. He had the Green Cloud Wings, which was a supreme-grade flying spiritual weapon. He could fly at extreme speed. Even an adult Fire Cloud Lion could not catch up with him. Moreover, he had cultivated the Eyes of Green Cloud, which had an extraordinary effect on demonic beasts. Yi Xing came to the Fire Cloud Peak to see if he could control an adult Fire Cloud Lion. If he succeeded, it would mean that Yi Xing would have a level 3 demonic beast by his side. Wouldn't that mean that he could do whatever he wanted in the Azure Cloud Ancient Land? Moreover, Yi Xing could crush any martial artist of the younger generation in the Azure Cloud Ancient Land without revealing his trump card, including the childs of the 4 northern sections. Although the Yin-Yang child was powerful and had defeated a 9-star martial sage, the gap between a martial sage and an enlightened being was too big. In front of a level 3 demonic beast that was equivalent to an enlightened being, the Yin-Yang child was nothing. At the foot of the Fire Cloud Peak, the Fire Cloud Lions smelled something unusual. More than 10 Fire Cloud Lions walked out of the Fire Cloud Peak and blocked Yi Xing's path. There were a total of 13 Fire Cloud Lions. Apparently, not all of the Fire Cloud Lions had come out. However, the number of Fire Cloud Lions was terrifying. Yi Xing scanned the superbrain and quickly identified that among the 13 Fire Cloud Lions, 5 were adults and 8 were minors. The 5 adult Fire Cloud Lions were equivalent to 5 enlightened beings in the astral realm. The 8 minors were not weak either. They were equivalent to martial sages. The most powerful one was even comparable to a 9-star martial sage. Although there were no human martial artists in Qingyan Ancient Land, there would be a group of them every 5 years. When the Fire Cloud Lions wandered in Qingyan Ancient Land, they would occasionally meet human martial artists. The adult Fire Cloud Lions were familiar with human martial artists. Only a few of the underage Fire Cloud Lions looked at Yi Xing curiously and showed great interest. The adult Fire Cloud Lions were puzzled. As level 3 demonic beasts, their intelligence was not low. Yi Xing was only a 6-star martial sage. In front of them, he was just like an ant. Logically, Yi Xing should be trembling in fear when he saw them. However, Yi Xing was not. Not only was he not afraid, but he was also calm and composed. He looked at the Fire Cloud Lions like a hunter looking for prey. This puzzled the adult Fire Cloud Lions. However, they were only a little confused. They would not be frightened by Yi Xing's calmness. An adult fire cloud lion roared, and a juvenile fire cloud lion beside it roared as well. Then, they walked towards Yixing with ferocious eyes. This fire cloud lion was equivalent to an 8-star martial sage. Obviously, the adult fire cloud lion wanted to test Yixing's strength. The fire cloud lion's fur was red and there were circles of patterns on it. It looked like a burning cloud. In terms of appearance, it was very beautiful. However, one should not be fooled by its beautiful appearance. The fire cloud lion was a very ferocious demonic beast. It was said to be invincible in the same realm. It might even be able to challenge those of a higher realm. This fire cloud lion was equivalent to an 8-star martial sage. Other than the Yin young master, the other 5 young masters would not be able to deal with it. Roar! The fire cloud lion roared. It was getting closer and closer to Yixing. With a leap, it rushed towards Yixing. Yixing's body did not move at all. He stood in the same place like a deep abyss. He did not dodge or resist. Only his eyes changed. Yixing's eyes suddenly became blurry. It was as if a layer of fog was covering his eyes. Moreover, it was spinning, forming a bottomless whirlpool. The fire cloud lion that was rushing towards Yixing suddenly stopped. Its eyes were deeply attracted by Yixing's eyes. A layer of fog also appeared in its eyes. It gradually spun and turned into a bottomless whirlpool. Then, it ran towards Yixing again. However, this time, it did not attack Yixing. Instead, it ran to Yixing meekly and lay down at Yixing's feet. Yixing's eye of clear cloud had been cultivated to the eye of cloud. He could even control a 3rd-grade demonic beast. Naturally, he only needed a glance to control a 2nd-grade demonic beast that was equivalent to an 8-star martial sage. Seeing this, the other fire cloud lions were shocked. They roared and communicated with the fire cloud lion at Yixing's feet in beast language. However, the fire cloud lion at Yixing's feet only glanced coldly at the fire cloud lions in front of it. It did not have any reaction. Yixing's control over it was impeccable. The fire cloud lions were shocked. Moreover, there was fear in their shock. When the Blue Cloud sect was still around, many fire cloud lions were controlled by the experts of the Blue Cloud sect with the Eye of Clear Cloud. Although the Blue Cloud sect had been destroyed for a long time and the fire cloud lions had not experienced that era, the fear of the Eye of Clear Cloud was still in their blood. In the end, an adult fire cloud lion with the brightest hair roared angrily. Although the fear in its blood was very strong, it was a 3rd-grade demonic beast, equivalent to a perfected being in the astral realm. It was impossible for it to be frightened by Yixing, a 6-star martial sage. After struggling for a while, the most powerful adult fire cloud lion rushed toward Yixing. Yixing's eyes with bottomless whirlpools looked at the adult fire cloud lion. The adult fire cloud lion's movements suddenly froze. It was a little confused. There seemed to be a voice in its mind guiding it, making it have no choice but to follow the voice. It looked at the human warrior in front of it, and a strong sense of awe rose in its heart. It wanted to go over, crawl at his feet, respect him as its master, and obey his orders. Step by step, the adult fire cloud lion's movements became gentle. It walked toward Yixing. A bottomless whirlpool of clouds gradually appeared in its eyes, and its ferocity gradually disappeared. However, in its mind, it was struggling. It was somewhat unwilling. The novel Supreme God of Archery will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% chance of a lucky draw for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the top right to add friend, search for the public account, Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up! Chapter 304. Yixing saw that the adult fire cloud lion was indeed affected by the Eye of Azure Cloud and was overjoyed. If he could tame this fire cloud lion, then Yixing would have an additional sage-level bodyguard by his side. Yixing's heart surged and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Although this adult fire cloud lion had never given up struggling and was unwilling to become Yixing's pet, Yixing was very confident that as long as he had enough time, he would definitely be able to tame it completely. Roar! At this time, the other fire cloud lions suddenly roared. They seemed to have realized that the adult fire cloud lion that was walking towards Yixing was going to be tamed by Yixing like the first one that attacked Yixing. If there were no external disturbances, Yixing could definitely use the Eye of Azure Cloud to completely tame this adult fire cloud lion in one go. However, before he could completely tame it, the roars of the other fire cloud lions immediately caused the fire cloud lion to regain its consciousness. Roar, the fire cloud lion that had regained its consciousness, was incomparably furious. Thinking that it actually wanted to recognize the 6-star martial sage as its master, it felt a sense of humiliation and crazily roared. Yixing frowned and cursed inwardly. The cloud vortex in his eyes dissipated and he lost control of the adult fire cloud lion. After the adult fire cloud lion roared, it stomped on the ground and continued to charge towards Yixing with a ferocious aura. This fire cloud lion's fur was the brightest and its strength was extraordinary. It seemed to be stronger than the other adult fire cloud lions and its strength might have reached the level of a 2-star sage. The fire cloud lion was extremely fast. It was too late for Yixing to use the Eye of Clear Cloud again. He could only use the heavenly bat steps and dodge with his fastest speed. Yixing's perfect heavenly bat steps, which had been infused with the slight wind force, was indeed faster than a Taoist who had just entered the astral realm. Yixing's body flashed like a beam of light as he dodged the attack of the adult fire cloud lion. In the blink of an eye, he was already hundreds of meters away. The adult fire cloud lion roared again. It would not be satisfied until it tore this reckless human warrior into pieces. Azure Cloud Eyes, Cloud Eyes. Yixing used the Azure Cloud Eyes once again, and his eyes were covered with a layer of mist, turning into a bottomless whirlpool. He stared at the adult fire cloud lion fiercely, looking straight into its soul. The fire cloud lion, which had just turned around and was about to charge at Yixing, suddenly shuddered. It felt dizzy again and its mind went blank. The effect of the Azure Cloud Eyes on demonic beasts was extraordinary. If Yixing used it to deal with a Taoist master, it would definitely not be effective twice in a row. Moreover, human warriors' resistance to the Azure Cloud Eyes would get stronger as the number of times it was used. On the other hand, demonic beasts' resistance to the Azure Cloud Eyes would get weaker as the number of times it was used. Now, this adult fire cloud lion was affected by Yixing's Azure Cloud Eyes for the second time, sinking deeper into the abyss. Roar! Seeing this, the other fire cloud lions roared together once again. This time, the adult fire cloud lion did not wake up directly. However, the mist whirlpool in its eyes began to dissipate. The light in the adult fire cloud lion's eyes flickered, struggling on the edge of waking up and sinking into the abyss. The other fire cloud lions roared again and again. Seeing that their roars did not have any substantial effect, the 4 adult fire cloud lions also charged at Yixing. Yixing frowned. Although he was fast, he was not fast enough to dodge the attacks of 4 adult fire cloud lions, which were equivalent to a Taoist master. Circulating his star essence, Yixing instantly activated the Azure Cloud Wings. A pair of azure wings instantly grew out of Yixing's back, exuding a bright light. The Azure Cloud Wings were 3 feet long. With a fierce flap, Yixing instantly soared into the sky, flying thousands of meters high. Yixing's speed was already fast to begin with. With the help of the supreme-grade flying spirit artifact, the Azure Cloud Wings, he was even faster to the extreme. His entire person was like a ray of light. Obviously, the attacks of the 4 adult fire cloud lions all missed. With the Azure Cloud Wings open, Yixing floated thousands of meters high in the sky. He continued to operate the Azure Cloud Eyes. The mist whirlpool in his eyes did not change. He controlled the adult fire cloud lion with the brightest hair and fought for control of its body. The 4 adult fire cloud lions that were attacking Yixing roared angrily and leaped into the air one after another. Their surging demonic qi circulated, causing a gust of wind to blow, giving them the ability to fly for a short period of time. They flew higher and higher in the air, rushing towards Yixing. However, Class 3 demonic beasts were equivalent to Taoist masters. They could not really fly. They could only glide in the air for a short distance, but they could not fly too high. The higher they went, the slower their speed. The azure cloud wings on Yi Xing's back flapped again. He was really flying. He was not affected by the height. In an instant, he flew hundreds of meters higher. The 4 adult fire cloud lions could not fly anymore after reaching a height of thousands of meters. They fell to the ground one after another. They could not even touch the soles of Yi Xing's feet. Yi Xing kept circulating his celestial essence to keep the azure cloud wings in flight. At the same time, he raised his mind to the limit to speed up the control of the adult fire cloud lion with the brightest hair. The 4 adult fire cloud lions that fell to the ground saw that they could not attack Yi Xing. They surrounded the adult fire cloud lion that was being controlled and roared at the latter desperately. Roaring at such a close distance was obviously very effective in disrupting Yi Xing's mind control. It made the adult fire cloud lion, which was about to completely fall into oblivion, regain a little bit of self-consciousness. It continued to be on the verge of waking up and falling into oblivion. In the sky, the azure cloud wings on Yi Xing's back flapped slowly. The cloud vortex in his eyes was bottomless and was getting deeper and deeper. On the ground, the 4 adult fire cloud lions surrounded the adult fire cloud lion in the middle and roared constantly. They wanted to pull the adult fire cloud lion in the middle out of the mental control. On Fire Cloud Peak, the other fire cloud lions heard the roar and ran down. Another 8 adult fire cloud lions came. These 8 adult fire cloud lions also joined in the roar, causing the roar to shake the heavens. Yi Xing could clearly feel that his celestial essence consumption was extremely fast while he was flying. He could not hold on for long. Moreover, using the azure cloud eyes to control a Class 3 demonic beast was also very taxing on his mind. His mind could not hold on for long. However, he was about to completely control the adult fire cloud lion in front of him. It seemed that he could do it in the next second. Yi Xing was not willing to give up and held on bitterly. Yi Xing released the adult fire cloud lion that he had previously controlled. He focused all his mind and launched a fierce attack on the fire cloud lion with the brightest hair. 1 breath, 2 breaths. Yi Xing's face gradually turned pale. His breathing began to become rapid and beads of sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. 5 breaths. 6 breaths. After a full 7 breaths, the adult fire cloud lion with the brightest hair jumped out of the encirclement of the adult fire cloud lions and ran away at an extremely fast speed, turning into a fiery red phantom. The adult fire cloud lions around were all shocked. At this time, Yi Xing, who was in the sky, was extremely pale. Sweat poured down like rain. As the azure cloud wings flapped, his body turned into a stream of light and rushed to the ground in an instant. He landed on the back of the adult fire cloud lion and instantly retracted the azure cloud wings. Success! Yi Xing held on for 7 breaths and finally completely controlled the adult fire cloud lion. Whether it was celestial essence or mental power, Yi Xing had consumed a lot of energy. Landing on the back of the fire cloud lion, he tightly hugged the fire cloud lion's neck and let it carry him on its back. The fire cloud lions behind finally reacted. This fire cloud lion had been controlled by Yi Xing. They roared and chased after Yi Xing. However, their speed was not as fast as the fire cloud lion under Yi Xing. This fire cloud lion with the brightest hair was the strongest among the adult fire cloud lions. It was the leader of this group of fire cloud lions. Since their leader had been taken away by Yi Xing, the rest of the fire cloud lions certainly would not give up. They chased for more than 2 hours until the distance between the two sides was so wide that they could not see each other. Only then did the fire cloud lions give up. On the back of the fire cloud lion, Yi Xing absorbed low-grade star crystals to recover his celestial essence. After more than 2 hours, he had recovered 50 to 60% of his celestial essence. Yi Xing did not let the fire cloud lion stop and continued to run. After running for a full day, Yi Xing was sure that the group of fire cloud lions would not find him again. He then let the fire cloud lion under him stop on a hillside. The novel Supreme Archer God will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% lottery gift for everyone. Open WeChat now. Click on the plus sign at the top right to add friend. Search for the public account, Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up. Chapter 305. Green Cloud Palace, Green Cloud Ancient Land. Green Cloud Palace was a well-known treasure land. It contained countless treasures. Every time the Green Cloud Ancient Land opened, the martial artists who came in would more or less obtain some treasures from the Green Cloud Palace. The treasures produced by the Green Cloud Palace varied in quality. If one was lucky enough, it was possible to obtain upper-grade spiritual medicine, upper-grade spiritual martial arts, upper-grade spiritual weapons, upper-grade spiritual materials, and other treasures that even enlightened masters needed. Because the Green Cloud Palace was a well-known treasure land, many martial artists came to the Green Cloud Palace to search for treasures. More than 20 days had passed since the Green Cloud Ancient Land opened. It was nearing the end. Most of the martial artists gathered at the Green Cloud Palace to try their luck after exploring the Green Cloud Ancient Land. However, there was an exception today. Many martial artists gathered at the Green Cloud Palace, including the disciples of the 4 northern sects and the 6 southern sects. However, no one was looking for treasures. Instead, something big had happened. The disciples of the Sun Moon sect, the Dark Underworld sect, and the Green Thunder sect suddenly attacked the disciples of the Falling Star sect. They captured all the disciples of the Falling Star sect in the Green Cloud Palace. A total of 9 disciples of the Falling Star sect came to the Green Cloud Palace. Except for Yi Xing, all of them were there. The 9 disciples of the Falling Star sect were caught by the disciples of the 4 northern sects. All of them were shocked. They did not dare to resist and were all taken out of the Green Cloud Palace. A total of 3 sects of the northern 4 sects had joined hands to capture a disciple of another sect. This had never happened before in the history of the Azure Cloud Ancient Land. Everyone was shocked. Most of them temporarily gave up on the treasure hunt and came to the Azure Cloud Palace to see what was going on. Outside the Green Cloud Palace, there were 70 to 80 people. Except for the disciples of the East Supporting Sect and the Flying Cloud Sect, only a few of the other 120 people had died. 2/3 of them came to the Green Cloud Palace. 2/3 of them were the top elites of the various sections. For example, the Northern 4 sects had 5 young masters and 4 8-star martial sages. The people who had captured the disciples of the Falling Star sect were the disciples of the Sun Moon sect, the Profound Underworld sect, and the Blue Thunder sect. At this moment, the 9 disciples of the Falling Star sect were standing in front of the disciples of the 3 sects, trembling in fear. As for the disciples of the Heavenly Luo sect, the Spirit Moon sect, the Divine Wind sect, and the Blood Spectre sect, they were watching from the side. Other than the disciples of the Heavenly Luo sect, the disciples of the other 3 sects were puzzled. However, the eldest disciple of the Divine Wind sect, Feng Yu, and the second disciple, Feng Zhe, seemed to be deep in thought. Standing in front of the 9 disciples of the Falling Star sect were 4 young masters. Young Master Sun Moon, Young Master Great Sun, Young Master Dark Nether, Young Master Thunder. In the Azure Cloud Ancient Land, each of them had their own opportunities and their cultivations had increased. Young Master Sun Moon had already broken through to become an 8-star martial sage, and his strength was even more terrifying. He was probably invincible among the 9-star martial sages. As for Young Master Great Sun, Young Master Nether Shadow, and Young Master Thunder, their cultivations had increased to the peak of the 8-star martial sage realm. When they were 8-star martial sages, they were already invincible among the 8-star martial sages. Now, they could defeat ordinary 9-star martial sages. In addition, Young Master Tian Luo, who was at the side, had his own opportunities. His cultivation had broken through to the next realm and he had become a 9-star martial sage. He stood out among the young masters and was almost on par with Young Master Sun Moon. As for Ma Ren and the other disciples of some of them had their own opportunities and their cultivations had increased. However, compared to the 4 young masters in front of them, they were not at the same level. Under the gaze of Young Master Sun Moon, Young Master Great Sun, Young Master Nether Shadow, and Young Master Thunder, as well as the other disciples of the Sun Moon sect, the Profound Underworld sect, and the Blue Thunder sect, Ma Ren and the other disciples of the Falling Star sect could only feel their scalps go numb and their hearts skip a beat. They did not know how they had offended the disciples of the three sections. However, they could feel that something was amiss and they were terrified. As the eldest senior brother, even though Ma Ren was afraid and his scalp was numb, he could only step forward and say, "Senior brothers, I don't know how the disciples of the Falling Star sect have offended you. I apologize to all of you and hope that you can be magnanimous and forgive us. We did not mean to offend you. We really did not mean to offend you." Young Master Nether Shadow snorted coldly and walked forward step by step. Soon he was in front of Ma Ren. Before he could say anything, young Master Nether Shadow slapped Ma Ren's face. Ma Ren was shocked and he quickly dodged. However, how could he be faster than young Master Nether Shadow? Slap. With a crisp sound, Ma Ren spat out blood and was sent flying by young Master Nether Shadow. The disciples of the Falling Star sect were shocked. They did not know how they had offended young Master Nether Shadow. However, young Master Nether Shadow did not say anything and directly hit Ma Ren. He did not take the Falling Star sect seriously at all. However, even so, they could only endure. When the strength was not equal, there was no reason to speak. Even if young Master Nether Shadow hit Ma Ren for no reason, who would dare to say no? Young Master Nether Shadow's sharp eyes swept across the faces of the Falling Star sect disciples and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you offend me?" Ma Ren, who fell to the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with some broken teeth. When he opened his mouth, he felt a sharp pain on his face. But he was not frightened by the pain. He stood up again and said, "You are the high and mighty disciples of the four northern sects. We have no right to offend you. But you should tell us how we disciples of the Falling Stars sect have offended you. Let us know when we're dead. But you hit us without saying a word. Is there any reason left?" Young Master Nether Shadow moved like a ghost and appeared in front of Ma Ren in an instant. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at Ma Ren's neck. Ma Ren was furious. Young Master Nether Shadow attacked without saying a word. He had gone too far. However, even though Ma Ren was filled with anger, it was useless. No matter how he dodged or resisted, he could not stop young Master Nether Shadow's claw. Ma Ren's hands retracted as if they had been electrocuted. In the next moment, young Master Nether Shadow's hand grabbed Ma Ren's neck and squeezed. Ma Ren screamed miserably. Half of his tongue was spat out. This squeeze almost caused Ma Ren to suffocate. Young Master Nether Shadow lifted Ma Ren high and then slammed him to the ground. Bang! With a loud explosion, the ground cracked. Half of Ma Ren's body sank into the earth and stone. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Whether it was the disciples of the Falling Star sect or the other 6 southern sects, they were all frightened at this moment. This was too much of a bully. In the eyes of young Master Nether Shadow, the disciples of the 6 southern sects were not humans. Even if the Divine Wind sect, Blood Ghost sect, and Falling Star sect were hostile camps, the disciples of these 2 sects couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts when they saw Ma Ren being beaten up by young Master Nether Shadow for no reason. At the same time, if the disciples of the 6 southern sects provoked young Master Nether Shadow or the disciples of the other 4 northern sects, their fate would be the same as Ma Ren's. Young Master Nether Shadow had already seriously injured Ma Ren, but he didn't stop. He stepped out again and ruthlessly stomped on Ma Ren's chest. At the same time, he shouted, "Reason?" Ma Ren suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and flew more than 2 meters high. Young Master Nether Shadow raised his foot again and stomped on Ma Ren's face for the second time. He shouted, "I am the reason. If I want to stomp you to death, I'll stomp you to death. Reckless thing." Ma Ren's mouth was filled with blood. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Trash that can't even withstand a single blow. Young Master Nether Shadow retracted his foot and said with disdain. He then walked toward the other 8 disciples of the Falling Star sect. The 8 people's hearts were thumping and their legs were trembling. They were full of fear for young Master Nether Shadow. This person was simply a demon. He was unreasonable. Although the Star Continent didn't pay attention to reason, it was rare to see someone who didn't pay attention to reason. Moreover, Although the star continent respected the strong, there was also a set of rules. Rules were the cornerstone that maintained the complete functioning of the entire social structure. Breaking the rules would easily provoke public anger. Young Master Nethershadow's action obviously broke the rules. In the world of martial artists, it was all about repaying kindness with kindness and revenge with revenge. If one stepped on others for no reason, no one would like it. Even the disciples of the Sun Moon sect, Blue Thunder sect, and Stygian sect thought that young Master Nethershadow's action was too much. Of course, no one dared to say it out loud. The novel Supreme Archer God will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there's a 100% chance of a lucky draw for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign at the top right to add friend, search for the public account, Kdred, and follow it. Hurry up! Chapter 306. The closer the Dark Nether young master got, the more terrified the 8 Falling Star sect disciples became. By the time the Dark Nether young master was in front of them, their legs had already turned to jelly. Some of them were even sweating profusely. The Dark Nether young master's eyes were like the eyes of a viper as he coldly scanned their faces. Suddenly he roared, "Trash, kneel down." Thump, thump, thump. The Dark Nether young master's roar completely destroyed the 8 people's psychological defenses. Qi Jingyang, Wu Chenggang, and more than half of the Falling Star sect disciples all knelt down. The others also felt their legs turn to jelly. They couldn't stand steadily and their legs trembled. The Dark Nether young master stared coldly at the Falling Star sect disciples who hadn't knelt down yet. He narrowed his eyes, revealing a terrifying chill. With a wave of his hand, a cold light shot out. The cold light was like a sharp blade, slicing across their knees. Then, screams rang out as their knees were dripping with blood. All of them knelt down. "Today I will make you beg for death. I will make you pay for the humiliation my junior sister suffered 10-fold, no, 100-fold. The Dark Nether young master said harshly, his voice revealing a bone-chilling chill. Whoosh, as he spoke, a cold light appeared in his hand. It was a long sword with a threatening chill. Judging from its quality, it was definitely a top-notch mid-grade spiritual weapon. Enough! At this moment, a voice came from the side. Under Mo Shilon's request and Luo Ying's signal, young Master Tian Luo spoke. Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. Yi Xing hurt your junior sister, so go ahead and take revenge on him. Why vent your anger on the other disciples of the Starfall sect? The punishment for the disciples of the Starfall sect is enough. Some of the people who didn't know what was going on were shocked. After hearing young Master Tian Luo's words, they understood why the Falling Star sect disciples would suffer from the Dark Nether young master's revenge. It turned out that the eldest disciple of the Falling Star sect had injured a disciple of the Dark Nether sect. No matter if it was the disciples of the Spirit Moon sect, the Holy Wind sect, or the Dark Blood sect, other than Feng Yu and Fang Zhe, no one expected that the disciple of the Dark Nether sect that Yi Xing had injured was not an ordinary disciple, but an 8-star martial saint Ming Shuang, who was the second person of the Dark Nether sect. As for Feng Yu and Fang Zhe, they were shocked. They had guessed this in their hearts, but they immediately rejected it. The two of them did not see what had happened. They found it hard to believe that Yi Xing, who was only a 6-star martial saint, was able to injure an 8-star martial saint, Ming Shuang. Moreover, since Yi Xing had injured Ming Shuang, it meant that the other 8-star martial saints had also been injured by him. Otherwise, why would the disciples of the Sun Moon sect and the Blue Thunder sect team up with the Dark Underworld sect to deal with the disciples of the Falling Star sect? A 6-star martial saint had injured 3 8-star martial saints? Feng Yu and Fang Zhe looked at each other and saw the shock and fear in each other's eyes. If Yi Xing really had such strength, it would have been easy for him to take their lives that day. Young Master Tian Luo's words made the Dark Nether young master frown. Young Master Tian Luo used to be as famous as him, but now, his cultivation was a level higher than his. However, the difference in cultivation didn't mean anything. As a young master, The Dark Nether young master naturally didn't fear young master Tian Luo. The Dark Nether young master said, Luo Lai, it's none of your business that I'm dealing with the trash of the Falling Star sect. Young master Tian Luo said, as a young master, you're fighting with a few ordinary disciples of the Falling Star sect. Aren't you afraid of losing face? The Dark Nether young master sneered and said, Hee hee, I'm taking revenge for my junior sister. The Falling Star sect's disciples injured my junior sister, so I'll take revenge on the Falling Star sect's disciples 10 times, 100 times. Who dares? I'll let them know what pain is. Young Master Tian Luo took a step forward and said, I, Luo Lai, say that you're a disgrace. Yin Fan, if you're really a character, vent your anger on me. What's the point of fighting with someone whose cultivation is far inferior to yours? The Dark Nether young master squinted his eyes, revealing a bone-chilling coldness. If it was before, the two of them were unrivaled 8-star martial saints, the Dark Nether young master wouldn't be afraid of young Master Tian Luo. But now, there was a gap of 1 level between them. With young Master Tian Luo's strength, there were probably few 9-star martial saints who could be his opponent. The Dark Nether young master knew that he was inferior to young Master Tian Luo. If he really fought with young Master Tian Luo, he would be at a disadvantage. While the Dark Nether young master was hesitating, the Yin-Yang young master opened the fan in his hand and walked out, looking straight at young Master Tian Luo. The Yin-Yang young master was wearing a spotless white robe. His skin was as white as snow, more delicate than a woman's skin. His facial lines were soft, and he looked prettier than most women. His whole person gave off an extremely feminine feeling. However, the Yin-Yang young master's feminine appearance didn't give off a feminine aura. Instead, his aura was as hot as the sun. The Yin-Yang young master waved the fan in his hand and said, Luo Lai, you have become a 9-star martial saint and you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. If you are really someone, go ahead and fight with me. What is the point of fighting against a martial artist whose cultivation is inferior to yours? The Yin-Yang young master returned young Master Tian Luo's words to him. The Dark Nether young master was an 8-star martial saint, while young Master Tian Luo was a 9-star martial saint. There was indeed a gap of 1 level between the two of them. Young Master Tian Luo's aura suddenly weakened. He had always regarded the Dark Nether young master as an opponent of the same level. However, he didn't realize that their cultivation was no longer on the same level. However, even though young Master Tian Luo had become a 9-star martial saint, he still didn't have much confidence in defeating the Yin-Yang young master. When the Yin-Yang young master was a peak 7-star martial saint, he had once defeated a middle 9-star martial saint. Now that he had become an 8-star martial saint, he should be invincible among the 9-star martial saints. After a few breaths, young Master Tian Luo said, Yang Ming, when we get out of the Green Cloud ancient land, there will be a battle between us. Why are you so anxious? When did you become like Yin Fan? You haven't found the right person yet and you are venting your anger on others. If that's the case, I will really look down on you. Haha. At this moment, a burst of wild laughter rang out. It was young Master Dari who walked out. He was as fierce as the sun and his expression was wild and unrestrained. Young Master Dari said, Do we, the disciples of the Sun Moon sect, need you to look up to us? Luo Lai, don't flatter yourself too much. Young Master Tian Luo's face turned green. Although he hadn't attacked, he had to bear the pressure of the Yin-Yang young master, young Master Dari and the Dark Nether young master's aura. The disciples of the Tian Luo sect beside young Master Tian Luo retreated. Under the aura of the 3 young masters, no one in the Tian Luo sect could withstand it except for young Master Tian Luo. Lei Bao, are you going to be like them? Young Master Tian Luo's gaze shifted to young Master Thunder. At this moment, he couldn't do anything alone. He had to find someone to join forces with. I, Lei Bao, am a righteous person. I will take revenge for revenge. I will only target Yi Xing from the Falling Star sect. Young Master Thunder said loudly. He waved his hand and led the disciples of the Green Thunder sect towards the disciples of the Tian Luo sect. The Tian Luo sect and the Green Thunder sect were allies. Now that the Yin-Yang young master, young Master Dari and the Dark Nether young Master had joined forces. Young Master Tianluo was alone. Naturally, young Master Thunder couldn't sit idly by. Otherwise, if he were to encounter such a situation the next time, he would be suppressed by the other 3 young masters without anyone to help him. Young Master Thunder stood beside young Master Tianluo. The 2 of them stood together and their aura complemented each other. Although their aura wasn't as strong as the other 3 young masters, it was enough to contend with them. Young Master Yinming retracted his gaze from young Master Tianluo and young Master Thunder. He glanced coldly at the disciples of the Falling Star sect and said, "Brother Yang Ming, Brother Yang Gan, should we cripple a few of them and teach the Falling Star sect a lesson?" Young Master Dari didn't speak. He looked at young Master Yinyang. Young Master Yinyang was obviously the leader of the 3. Young Master Yinyang shook his head and said, "Not for now. They are just a few ants. We don't have to lose our dignity because of them. Let's wait for Yi Xing to arrive." At this moment, a strong fluctuation of spiritual aura came from the green cloud hall. It seemed like some treasure had leaked its aura. Everyone present felt it and their eyes lit up. Young Master Yinyang said, "Disciples of the Listen Up. All of you kneel here until Yi Xing arrives. If Yi Xing doesn't come, or if any of you get up before Yi Xing arrives, all of you will be crippled of your martial arts and have one of your arms cut off." The novel Supreme God of Archery will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform. At the same time, there will be a 100% chance of a lucky draw. Open WeChat now and click the plus sign on the top right to add friend. Search for the public account, Dread, and follow it. Hurry up! You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.